It comes from knowing that from insecurity and from there for the grace of
Yeah,
events to
yeah.
lie. Oh, you didn't see it?
Oh!
Oh,
It's when you put on your martyr face and you're like, oh, I guess only one of us really cares about the weird things.
oh God, last week it was so funny because it was just, I saw the look on your
Uh,
face and I'm thinking like, I'm literally the guy that was up the night before going, oh, I didn't see this. And
and I was the same way. Yeah. That's so amazing. Hey, we should be okay. Wait a minute. For some reason, we're not live on Alpha Geek Radio yet. It's Alpha Geek 3, right? Yeah, that's where I'm set. And it should have announced Weird Things live. We are live on Channel 1 of Diamond Club TV. And then I'm going to open up the second screen over here.
Pardon me.
Dude, did you hear about this flooding going on?
No.
Yeah.
Where?
In Austin.
Oh, who cares?
All right. Yeah, dude. Brant woke up with definitely 2 inches of water throughout his entire apartment.
Well, is that just a localized thing to Grant?
No, well, he was in the area that got the worst of it. There,
Oh,
a
wow.
tornado touched down in Dripping Springs.
Oh, Jesus, that's no fun. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Like a friend of ours. She just heard. Is this running right now?
Yeah, on the AGR, you need to do the video too. On the
Oh,
right side,
I have to
you
click.
do both sides.
Oh,
Yeah.
when is that a new thing?
No, it's not.
I've never done it before.
No, Brian.
I've
It's a Brian.
literally
It's a dumb
never
thing.
clicked the video
Not like
button.
that does. Yeah, it's. Remember you used to go to 2 pages?
No, I never went to 2 pages. I only and forever, for every night attack, for everything, I've only and forever gone to 1 page. Ever. Like I couldn't even tell you, if my life depended on it, I couldn't tell you what the other pages I was supposed to go to. I go to the page of the channel and click on and
That sets the video.
but I was specifically told that the video was magical because it would automatically flip over whenever Meta CDN came on.
Yeah, but that sets the on-air ticker thing on the front page.
Okay. Okay. Well then,
Yeah.
but the video still works though.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the video. So the video thing doesn't have anything to do with but not connecting.
Right. No. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's not gonna fix.
Oh. Okay. Right. All right. Yeah. That's. So there's that.
Also, my mic.
Yeah. Sorry. There. Now your mic's on.
No, because I'm on 3.
No, because you're on
There,
3.
because I'm there. There we go.
Man, I don't know what else to do here, sir. We got Weird Things on Alpha Geek 3. We announced that we're on, and I clicked the connect button.
I don't know. Let's see. Is Todd is not in the chat room. I know he rolled out a bug fix or something today for Safari people, so maybe that messed up Shoutcast, maybe.
Thanks, Todd.
But of course, you can go to diamondclub.fm and get the live audio stream there as well.
Oh, yeah.
Except you can't hear this because
Yeah, that's the one flaw in the system. Son of a bitch. I had the worst, most frustrating arena run. I had the best set of draws I've ever had in arena. I got 2 legendaries.
Wow.
Centarius, the dude with the crazy horns, who adds +2 to everyone or brings 2 +2 treants, 2/2 treants. And then another dude who I hadn't seen before but was wicked badass. And just everything about it was perfect, and it just didn't even matter. It was just.
Did you get any wins?
I got 1 win in the 3 losses, and it was one of those where like I knew I'd been handed something special, so it's like I can't even blame me being all like I wasn't paying attention, and just sort of jerking around. It was like I was deeply paying attention, and it didn't matter.
Maybe you needed some Heart the Notes.
I did. I needed some
Sure came
quality advice.
Have you seen it?
Oh yes, yeah, dude. Looks awesome.
It's great.
We
I think
need
the
to-
boiled shirt is probably coming next week.
I'm digging the fact that people are just popping in to spectate and shouting random advice. Although I forgot about the downside of having so many friends on BattleNet is I had a 0-3 arena run, and somebody who was busy playing his own game, it just says Brian ended his arena run 0 for 3, and he just says like, congratulations, bro. I'm like, God damn it. All right, I keep hitting Justin on here, so here, why don't I do this? Why don't
I while you had your conversation about that, I had like this scary vision of the future.
Well, I thought you were gonna say like burst of productivity. I wrote another novel in that time, Brian.
Oh no, I have my own time wasting things like not combing my hair apparently.
Yeah.
Is that like these kind of conversations like it's due to the horns came up out of nowhere
Yeah.
are only going to become more commonplace and more relevant and have a more bigger impact on our life and like end up going into a 6-month battle for the whole thing. Took some time off from work to manage this thing because like as you look at how professional sports takes over our lives, and how, March Madness, all these sorts of things.
Especially, when you can find a personal stake in it. You got your office pool or whatever. Or,
and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm training for a marathon. I'm training for ooh. Yeah, I'm training for a Hearthstone arena battle.
Dude,
Ooh.
and what's funny is that will not, first of all, it should not be a joke now, and it definitely will not be a joke in another 5 years. Like that'll be...
I'm going to treat it like it's a joke, but you're right.
I mean, it's like, believe it, like it's new and strange and kind of silly and not what we're used to, but it's like, do you think in the Middle Ages they thought much of debate tournaments and speech tournaments, or in fact, UIL competition. And I was so bummed that I didn't make good on my threat, but I found out that pretty much you could get a Letterman's jacket in high school for qualifying of a certain level of any UIL event. And I found out that UIL had typing as an event, and I wanted so bad to be
God.
a Letterman, a jock with a little typewriter on
That's
there
hilarious.
lettering.
I got mine for wrestling, but. And we had a horrible team that year. So, buddy of mine, all my geek friends are like, let's, and I did judo, but like, let's go out for it. They're like, there's nobody on the team. Like, really? So it was all our wrestling team that year was not good, but let me tell you, it was we had the highest GPA and IQ of any wrestling team probably in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I did Texas Academic Decathlon, which was turns out like, I mean, it sounds like in high school, it sounds like the most poisonous event to do. Like, I want to go take tests, 10 of them at a time per event. But I'll tell you what, man, you get really good at taking tests. You stop being afraid of the pressure of tests really fast.
So I was thinking, as you're talking about your Hearthstone thing, was the idea of, remember we saw that Magic Leap demo video of the guys in this office? Imagine a bunch of people in their office, a bunch of like, Salesforce company type people are like, hey, we're being attacked by Facebook, everybody. Goggles up.
Dude,
the challenge is on.
And what's funny is, there's something primal. There's something in our lizard brain that deeply loves hurling projectiles and gets a deep, deep serotonin rush from it hitting on target. We even call it shooting, right? And it's like, if you want to have a powerful, and we already see this with our military, as they try to make war more video game-like. Simultaneously, video games try to be a virtualized version of war, but also war tries to become more video game-like because we want to have the most effective troop, and it turns out people are highly engaged when it feels like a video game. I'll tell you what, man, you think Six Sigma is a way to train winning management? It's what you need to do is get badges and freaking upgrades and leveling up and privileges for experience points.
Have you seen the trailer for the Ethan Hawke movie Good Kill?
No.
It's about he plays a drone pilot.
Oh, that's right. He's like an overweight video game playing kind of guy.
Well, no, he was a former pilot, like an actual pilot, but then he gets assigned to a drone unit. And the drone unit is located in Las Vegas. But he gets up, goes to work, taking out targets,
kills
in the Middle
people,
East,
and then comes
gets
home.
done, goes home, mows the lawn.
Yeah, it's insane. Okay, now that Justin's here, I'm gonna run and grab some ice from a cup and run to the restroom, and then I'm ready.
Hi, friends.
How was the voodoo donut?
man, so we went to Voodoo yesterday,
Mhm.
and the one thing that I always forget about Voodoo Donuts is a half of a donut's enough. You never need more than a half. You could just order, I would like a half of a donut from Voodoo. You would be satisfied beyond belief.
That's where we disagree, but please continue.
I mean, it's not to say that it's great, right? But they are gigantic. They're massive. It is not to say that they are anything but delish. It is just there's a lot of it. You know, like they are great, man. You get a lot of donut for your dollar. So we got a dozen,
Oh,
half,
that's inhuman.
yeah, half regular, half vegan, and we each had one of them. And Dan got a. And listen, folks, I'm gonna say something, and it might not be to your taste, but understand that this is what's printed on the menu. It is a cock and balls. And we probably ate only a fraction of it. I think I think I
Just the
had a
tip?
donut and a half. And there's a bar right across the street in that alley where we went to go eat our donuts, and we wound up leaving the donuts there to be party favors for incoming customers to that.
You know, there are two Voodoo Donuts. There's one that's way less crowded.
Yeah. You know, the wait wasn't terrible. Like it was probably, like they said, it was 40. I think it was probably closer to 15 or 20, you know, and it was all right. You know, it was a good taste of Portland to, you know, listen to the street buskers and just kind of BS and stuff like that. That area is pretty interesting. We went to a arcade right around the corner from there. That was really fun. So no, we definitely had a good time. And that bartender made out, because not only did he get all the donuts that we didn't eat, but also as part of his tip, I gave him a copy of Angel Killer, which I had purchased
What a
at
lucky
Powell's.
bartender.
I had purchased at Powell's because I wanted to support. You know, I know Powell's is certainly one of those famous bookstores that you know, publishing people watch. So I wanted to show up for my buddy and buy Angel Killer. But I already have, I think, multiple physical copies of Angel Killer, so I can't really do much about it. So I asked him, like, "Hey man, you consider yourself a book reader?" It's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You like mysteries?" It's like, "I love mysteries." I'm like, "Well, today is your lucky day, because I'm gonna give you this book, and like the Book of Mormon, I will promise it'll change your life." So who knows?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Well, I'd love to plug on the show. We have a free free Jessica Blackwood short story, which is available. So
Yes,
Oh,
which
heck yeah.
is very exciting, and I really want to read, because I think it might be one of the few, certainly Jessica Blackwood stuff, that I haven't read yet. Unless I have read it. I don't know.
I don't know if we want to talk about it on the show or not, but like this is.
Let you hear from some of our crews that are live out in some of these flooded areas. First, we are
There was some raw video that was. Man, this makes me wish I did Facebook, because they had some terrifying footage of cars being swept away and all this other crap last night. It was insane.
Jim was saying earlier that officials are telling us at least 350 homes are underwater. That's
350 homes
National
underwater,
Weather
just
Service.
swept
So again,
away.
The Wimberley area has 5 or 6 shelters set up right now where people are staying dry. Also, we want to get back to San Marcos. Mention the evacuation centers or the shelters that are open.
Yeah, that's
But
where
once
that's
again,
where
if you're
Brant
looking for a
was.
place to go or trying to find someone who may
Yeah,
have been
Brant was
evacuated,
was
again, the
was
San
soaking it
Marcos
up, huh?
Activity Center is
Yeah.
at capacity.
Apparently, I fired off a message telling him that if he needed a place to stay, you know, we had a room for him, but I haven't heard back. I'd imagine he's got a lot on his plate right now.
Trail. Affected neighborhoods include the Blanco Gardens area, Crepe Myrtle, Pecan, Hackberry Street, and
one of our family friends just posted on Facebook, like, with the air of utter defeat that comes from, you know, flat knowing that they're like, hey, so a neighbor said that the water finally got below where my roof used to be, and she was able to visually verify that the entire house and everything in it is gone. Like the previous record was like 33 feet flood. This was like 41 and a half. And the previous record was set in like 1922 or something.
Good God.
It was crazy. Yeah, no, it's like Blanco County.
Was this something that was even on the radar? Like I don't have a sense for how much floods sneak up on people.
Well, the problem is like you can know it's going to rain, but you don't know where the rain exactly will be because the places that flood aren't usually the places that are getting all the rain. It's the places downriver where it rains up in the basin, everything sweeps down at once, and you get the flash flooding. And in this case, like this is our 23rd day of rain in Austin, and the funny part is we're still like we need a month more of this insane rain to get the lake levels back to normal, because we're coming off of like 4 years of drought. And it looks like it's going to rain again tomorrow. They canceled the first part of the triathlon. They canceled the swimming part. So tomorrow I'm going to participate in a biking and running thing. That's
biathlon?
Well, biathlon means
biathlon is skiing and gun shooting.
Shooting,
which,
no. Although that would be awesome.
Water skiing.
They make that announcement. They're like, listen, you can't swim. I'm afraid we're going to have to do a biathlon. There's skis over here, and we have guns over here.
No, you should demand it. I mean, if they're gonna give you the short shrift on that, you just bring your shotgun.
That would be amazing. At any rate, so yeah, there's that. Okay, let me set levels real quick, and we'll start recording. Oh shit, son. Hey, Jonathan, can I call you back later on today? Okay, cool. I'll see you. Checking for Brian, which is a bit hot. Check. All right, let me hear. Andrew.
Checking for Andrew right now.
That's good.
Trying to put together something awesome.
Justin.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z.
Bryce.
God damn it. Really?
Fucking, it's because Penny did it 5 times in a row, and I was like, Bryce. She's like, oh, I wonder why I keep calling him Brant.
Oh, okay.
And then,
so yeah, this is if I chime in, this will be about where I'm at. I'm pretty low.
Done. Boom.
By the way, if anybody notices the paper in my ear, it's because Allie Gertz punched me in the ear with her ring.
Do I have to wait till Tuesday night to get the story, or
no? She was kind of going for a hug, and it got a little overzealous, and the ring just scratched the inside of my ear, which apparently is the way that you can bleed out. Like if you just have the barest scratch on your inside your ear, you can just leave a trail, and eventually you'll just be a white shriveled husk.
One last thing is when we signed in and got our bib number, I'm going to be 728. By the way, I'll tweet out that you can follow my progress. But then they also said like, would you like free beer? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And they're like, when the race is over, do you want free beer? And I was like, well, yes. He's like, well, then you have to put on your Michelob, otherwise you won't get access to the free beer garden that's available after.
You can't get the free beer if you don't do this. No free beer.
It was just the last question I expected to be asked. It was amazing.
So you're gonna wear those wristbands for over 24 hours until?
Well, I have to. I can't. Yeah, you put them in, you sign in. You can't take them off. And then you also have to get.
You said the words.
You have to get temporary tattooed down your arm for it. And I'm serious.
Serious?
And then you have to get chipped. You have to wear the chip the entire time.
Whoa.
But like again, you can follow a feed that'll say where Brian is and how he's going.
How very Austin.
Yeah.
Perched on top of a building with your tranquilizer dart.
That's right. All right, here we go. Ready? 5.
Brian,
4.
I sent you. Hold on, wait. Hold up.
Yep,
I sent you a video, and when it's time to play, mute the left audio.
Okay. I'm fairly certain I could do that. Let me go ahead and get.
You'll see. You'll get two YouTube screens. Just click mute.
Oh, I see.
We also have some name submissions.
Got it.
In the doc.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Say again. On which doc?
In your Gmail. If you go to your Gmail, it's right under Andrew's email. Actually.
Got it. Beautiful.
All right, ready?
User submissions?
User submissions and name submissions. So those are UFO stalkers, and those are names.
Oh, that's right, because we did talk about good. All right. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, beautiful people.
Justin Robert Young.
Hi, friends.
The dream is alive!
Wait a minute, what are you all fired up about?
Gentlemen, I'm beside myself. I watched a video this week which was amazing.
Well, I don't see what. Oh, wait, this wasn't the SpaceX crew eject thing, was it?
That was amazing too.
Oh, but not the amazing thing you're talking about.
This is like every childhood fantasy I had before puberty come true.
Oh, so it's not Game of Thrones then?
That's amazing. This is unexpected. This was a gift out of the blue. Like all of a sudden, hey, this is a thing now. This is a real thing. Brian, I sent you a video clip, and I put the appropriate music towards it, which for audio listeners won't mean anything except as you guys describe your visceral excitement as you see this.
Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna let me real quick. I'll mute the appropriate channel.
I am like, I don't know why there aren't press conferences. I don't know why, you're just telling us about the tragic situation going on in Austin with the flooding and stuff like that.
Sure.
And we talk about it. If only. Just.
All right, here we go. Oh, God damn.
Get the right music, the music for the right side.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I can't hear it.
Oh,
All right.
yeah. Dude, we're hearing, this is I Need a Hero, right?
I can't hear it, but that's okay. So, what this is, tell us what we're looking at, Brian.
Dude, we are looking at a real-ass dude on a real-ass hoverboard, real-ass floating over a lake. I believe, I saw this, I believe he set a Guinness World Record for the world's longest hoverboard flight. Is that right?
Yes, understand, folks, this is not some 3 millimeter off the ground on some little copper plate that's about as exciting as standing on a cookie sheet with butter on the bottom that people have been excited about. No, this guy's 10 feet up in the air, standing like the friggin' Green Goblin, flying down a lake, okay? And,
it's legit, dude. And it's like you look at it and he's out over a lake, I assume for safety reasons, if nothing else, because hold on, let me stop listening to we're gonna have to listen to the hero song. There we go. So, farthest journey by hoverboard, Guinness World Records. Dude, okay, so he's over a lake, and you see, for a split second, you can squint your eyes and think that you're watching a dude wakeboarding, is how casual it looks.
Yeah, he's standing on a little floating platform. All of a sudden, it takes off. There's a spray. We don't get a close-up of what this thing is, but I assume it looks like it's about looks like maybe 6 really powerful quadcopters.
Yeah,
So this is a fan board.
Yeah. I mean, well, he's hovering, so let's call a spade a spade. It's a hoverboard.
It's a hoverboard.
And he, the dude is just riding a majestic array of drones, basically, and
it's not huge. This thing is probably maybe 6 feet across, but it's not like, he's standing on some. You look at him and it looks like just a dude standing on a thick snowboard.
Yeah, like a double size wakeboard, or maybe 2.5 times what you picture a traditional snowboard or wakeboard looks like.
So I guess and that's the big question, is whether or not this. So he's over a lake, but the lake is playing no part in his movement, right?
No.
Other than when he falls, he has something to fall into. It is
sure.
It
Yeah. But I guess that's why he's doing it. It's not like the water is part of the flight.
No. He says he can go, quote, scary high with this thing.
Well, I believe it, right? You could just fly. But
Yeah.
Now here's the amazing part, is that so much of the control factors, I'm sure, you have a very cheap, very fast, very efficient microcomputers controlling each of the fans in order to keep things relatively balanced. In 5 more years, we're going to be at a place where you couldn't fall off of this if you tried to. We're going to be in a place where you could try to screw it all up, and it would, and the device would be smart enough to make sure that you stay balanced, regardless of whether or not you're even conscious. It could probably flip you upside down and gently take you down to earth if you pass out.
I think yes. I think the answer to that is yes. I think we have I think we're heading towards kind of a drone bubble. There's so many different companies making drones right now that there's just never going to be as much demand for what they're offering right now, that you have to start diversifying this technology into other things, like package delivery. But what this guy's built here is, it looks like, from what we see, I think maybe 8. It's hard to get any really good close-up footage of it. It looks like he's got about 8 quadcopters there, or 8 units there. And so it's one guy built this. Imagine if Elon Musk got a little inspired.
Well, and here, let me go to full screen. Let's see if we can take it up to HD. Let's do our own weird things investigation.
Well, I mean, and also here's the big thing. With the one thing that is absent here, that was also absent that other hoverboard, which I agree with you, Andrew, is far less impressive than this, is also the sound to it, right? Like, because this is an audio-less video, unless there is audio that we're not playing.
No. Yeah, there is audio here. Let me.
Yeah, it's loud. I mean, it's like 8 quadcopters.
We're able to hear it here, but for some reason Skype doesn't want to receive back one of the audio channels. Here's what it sounds like. So you can hear the moment that this fires up. So I mean, it sounds.
But you want to know what? Like, that's really that probably makes less of a commotion than those like water jetpack things, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it sounds about like
versatile and interesting.
It's a different pitch, but it sounds like a dual outboard engine. Yeah. Well, for the audio listeners, just this is the sound of all 3 of us being transfixed at the future right in front of us. So
imagine it's a dude in kind of a lake appropriate bodysuit with his feet are in 2 kind of like snowboarding boots. And below, just imagine that you have fused together like 8 quadcopters.
Okay, so here's the question: are we seeing the beginning of this is a thing that can be done, and that's the biggest gap, is going from 0 to anything, and now we are at anything.
Previous record was 164 feet. This was 1,000 or 900 feet.
Okay, well, and it's very clear watching this that this guy could have gone 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times as long. I don't know if it's a battery issue.
Battery.
Yeah. What are we going to do about the battery issue? Do you think we're going to move? So what are the solutions? You got, you could switch to hydrogen, fuel cell everything. We create, whatever. Let's say, for sake of discussion, that either solar becomes insanely cheap, or what do you call it? Fusion, cheap fusion becomes possible, or whatever. Let's say that the electricity is free and we can generate hydrogen all we want. Good idea or bad idea to solve everything with little, instead of CO2 cartridges, you got hydrogen packs?
No, too many containment issues. I think there will be applications for hydrogen, but I don't think it's really a practical solution for most things. I mean, battery technology, there is a lot of exciting stuff on the workbench. Getting it from there into devices takes a lot longer, and every few months we get exciting new battery development that MIT researchers were able to get into work in one situation but not scaling. But every now and then something does move forward on that. We're getting batteries are getting better. We're improving them. There's supercapacitors and other technologies there. I think most of the future is going to be battery powered. That's why Elon Musk, who's probably one of the smartest people in the world, is building his gigantic gigafactory.
What about liquid metal batteries? Do you think it's all highfalutin, high end? Eventually, all cars will run on atomic power hype, or do you think it's practical and around the corner?
I think that we only need our next generation battery to really have an effective solution for cars, because you're already getting a Tesla has a 200 plus mile range. If your next iteration of battery triples that or whatever, you're looking at over 1,000 mile range for one of these cars, which is pretty damn good. So, I think that's going to be.
I mean, I guess is the simultaneously sexiest and unsexiest answer that we are on the right track. We know what the technology is, and it's just a matter of it continuing to iterate and improve.
Or the technology's out there. We don't know which one will be the one that'll win the Game of Thrones, but we know that there are a lot of people on it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Is here's what's exciting is part of the reason, if for anyone who hesitates to understand why evolution works, evolution is an extremely crude, very slow way to iterate forward. However, it is unfathomably, unimaginably diversified. It's massive parallel computing on the greatest scale. It's like let's try random crap and see what works. It goes up, and through all of since the birth of man till now. We have not been highly diversified. We have not had a lot of parallel computing. There's been a very small elite privileged group of white Europeans, in the last 200 years who have been able to have the resources to advance things. But all of that is out the window now. Now everything's democratized. Now somebody right now, I got an email today or a tweet today from somebody saying, holy cow, I'm so thrilled I found you on Twitter. I bet I'm the only Kurd who was watching the premiere of your show on the other side of the world. And like all of a sudden, what to me was might as well have been a fictional land on the other side of the planet that I heard in news stories, all of a sudden became very real. And you realize that guy, it turns out that guy wanted to learn magic from a jackass on the other side of the planet, but someone else in that position wants to make the ultimate liquid metal or battery or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I think we talked about this before, but it's astonishing how slow it took to just get the data to start churning to get those innovations. And it's not slow. It all happens instantaneously. And now you can order DNA kits at home and start making your own revolutionary breakthroughs.
I think the next biggest leap, and we talked about this last year, was there's a technology which is now being put out and tested in San Francisco. It's by the company called Artemis, by a guy named Steve Perlman, who's been a developer of other technologies. And that is the idea of basically creating micro little cell spots no bigger than your phone, essentially, so it can send tremendous amounts of data, huge amounts of data, works with interference, all of this stuff, uses what they call beam shaping, etc. So the idea is that you could stack 10 phones on top of each other, and each one could be getting a separate 4K signal with no interference.
Wow.
In the patent filings for this technology, it was noted that this same thing could be used for the transmission of wireless power.
Now, okay, every time I've heard this, I don't know if you've turned on the internet lately, but did you hear that Tesla had a magical power beaming free electricity tower that the whole world was going to have free power or whatever? It's like that nonsense is so over the top that it actually cools me off on even listening to a legitimate claim like this one.
But the problem is, here's the thing. Perlman ain't the one saying this. Perlman has not been out there saying, hey, we can transmit. And we understand we do have forms of commercial induction, whatever, now that work, from certain phones, things like that, work a small distance of. There is commercial applications.
Well, I mean, that's on the Apple Watch. That's what you use, right?
Yeah, and you have other ones that are like,
here.
yeah, but when it gets just you're going different distances, the problem is just the efficiencies aren't there, a drop off, whatever. But Perlman has not come out and said, hey, everybody, not only can we do this, we can also transmit power. That's the funny thing, is he's not said that, but people have been digging through the patents, look at it, go, wait, this technology would really do well by that too. And that says to me more than anything else the fact that they're not out there just saying, hey, we've got this new thing. But they have, like, you can go to CES now and stuff, and they have demos. There are technologies now that have extended beyond the laboratory. And remember, the Tesla thing was not going to be an efficient thing. I mean, you're right, basically ionizing the air and everything like that, and it was not going to be, wouldn't have been fun to be around.
Yes. Well, and also it's like the drop off was ridiculous. I mean, it's a highly inefficient way. I mean, you could, I don't even know if you can get effective light from it. But then again, I'm not smart.
Yeah. So I think that, there are things that we think are easy problems to realize they're much more complicated problems. And there are things that we realize are, we can sort of just rule out, but then it comes down to, well, maybe there is something to it. And so I think that, I'm not saying this is going to be next year, and I'm not saying it's even 10 years out, but I am saying at some point I do think that we will solve this issue.
Dude, I'll tell you what, it's if past performance is not an indicator of future performance, but if we can interpret anything from the, mankind's track record, is that whatever progress we make this year will be beat by the progress we make the year after, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that.
Mm-hmm. So, hoverboards, guys.
So that's, all right, here's my question. What we saw just now in 10 years is something like that, or that idea of using the quadcopter stuff as a hover implement, more or less in use than the Segway?
Oh, more. The Segway.
Because the Segway, for as laughable as the revolutionary human mover technology, is something that I see, probably once a week between tourist stuff in San Francisco or random cops in airports and stuff like that. Like, Segways are around; they are a thing. Will people be riding these? Either, not to say that for the same use, but just in terms of different kinds of people moving technology.
Well, like that thing, I think it's a hard one to answer, because if my first, I'd be like, no. But if I go to Mount Hood, or if I go down to the river, then yes, I'll see them everywhere. They're very different applications. They're very, very different. I don't know that they're going to be street legal for flying down the streets with power lines and stuff and utility poles and stuff because of people.
Well, to put it in perspective, the Segway was first shown by Dean Kamen in 2001. So that's 14 years ago. So the question is, 14 years from now, I think that would be the fairest comparison.
Then what, Andrew? What would you say is a better comp? Like, what is a better a thing that'd be interesting to measure it against?
What was the comparison for a helicopter before we had a helicopter?
Plane?
Yeah, a plane or a hot air balloon, or it's like or a Zeppelin dirigible. Yeah,
but none of those. It ended up filling niches and applications that none of those were used for, essentially.
Oh no, I would say that the helicopter definitely has taken over, because it used to be that if you needed to, let's say there's a forest fire and you needed to dump water on it or whatever, that's the kind of thing you would throw a Zeppelin at and it would slowly get over there and do it. And now you don't.
Did anybody ever do that?
I don't know, but I'm saying, like, if that problem existed and that absent that technology, that's something you could do with cruder versions in the same space.
I guess the problem is we keep looking at the past as a blueprint for the future, but bigger, shinier, and more expensive. And I'm trying to say that no, it might be a totally different thing than the thing. Is it sport? Where the way people use sport motorbikes, but maybe not so much on road. It would be cool. Maybe we're going to get. I do think that this indicates to me that now that people see that this drone technology can carry somebody and it looks really damn fun, that you're going to get a lot more people going, yeah, how can we use this for personal transportation? How can we do this? And
I don't mean to say that any of these things are this other thing, or that this will follow in the footsteps of it. Even if we are going to say, in terms of, we saw a dude do it on the river, right? And that looks really fun. If we're going to compare it to, jet skis or 4-wheel motorcycles or something like that, where do we think that we might see something like this in the future, I guess?
Take this same technology here, put a chair, a reclining kind of chair in there, surround those rotocopters around there like that, have better battery technology that goes more than 1,000 feet and gives, or 1,000 distance, that gives you 30 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour or whatever, and that might be much further out. You have a really awesome form of personal transportation. Combine it with all the technologies they're developing for self-driving cars. We've now got, besides Google and Tesla and Apple secretly spending gazillions of dollars on self-driving cars. You also have Uber doing this now. Transportation is becoming a very, very exciting area of technology, and we're looking for that big leapfrog, that big fundamental change that's not just it's not just a car, it's the way it works and the way we think about it. And I look at this stuff and I think like, oh, if I can if I can take a person from point A to point B, with needing an area smaller than a parking space to land something, do you?
Well, I mean, my only hesitation to get excited about that is because structurally, you've described nothing that's not already available in the kind of homemade gyrocopter that mailman built. And
you couldn't land in a parking space in a gyrocopter takeoff. Remember, it has to have runway.
Okay. Well, or a helicopter. I mean, yeah. Okay, never mind. Forget it.
How is this functionally different than the helicopter that pops out of Inspector Gadget's hat?
Well, I think that, helicopters have become very awesome, very useful pieces of technology that most larger cities can afford to buy them. You have news agencies have these sort of things, and now you see a push towards using drones for stuff where traditionally you would send a helicopter out there. Now you can do a drone because it's cheaper. This isn't but you don't land a helicopter in the middle of a city street or even on a highway in most situations.
I personally think the noise issue means that you never see this in cities. You see them banned in cities. It's the kind of thing that you could use, like
I don't know, man. Like I used to live on in an apartment next to two highways that interchanged, and the motor, like if we're into like banning things because of noise, like motorcycles are the worst, and I can't imagine it being louder than as loud as motorcycles can get.
Two things. First of all, the noise is something that everyone can point to. Like, do you want that around your city at all times? Then everyone will say no. Second of all, the biggest thing is that it won't be fly-by-wire or whatever. This is the kind of thing that you can have out in the country. You're like, well, if I was going to drive over, I'd have to go a mile down this road. I have to go 3 miles down this road, blah, 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 blah. He's literally, this parcel of land is literally 500 yards away as the crow flies. Why don't I just fly like a crow? And so I could see something out there, kind of like the sky equivalent of a four-wheeler. I could see, but that's certainly you're looking. I don't see it in cities at all.
Well, that was Elon Musk's biggest criticism of the electric car, of the flying cars. He said we could build one now, but the big thing is that it's. The noise issue is one, is how loud they would be, and then the amount of wind that it puts up. This device is much. But when you say forget cars, we just want to move a body from point A to point B, it becomes a different challenge in trying to move 2,000 pounds of steel and carbon fiber. The other thing too is drone noise suppression is a very big active area of research right now, because as drones become popular and because they're an accessible technology, you can work on a college workbench in an engineering school. There's a lot of effort being put into now, how do we make them quiet? Because you look at them and you go, man, this is amazing. This is the future. But then you hear, oh, we're like, well, that part sucks.
Yeah.
How do we eliminate that? And that's a problem.
And I'll bet you that there were people, 30, 40 years ago who would be blown away by how quiet we've been able to make computers with fans, and stuff like that.
I mean, as somebody who used computers 30 years ago, they're actually, they got slightly louder, but it's like, there were no fans in the Apple IIe's. There were no fans in, there were small fans in some of the early 286s. The peak of fan noise really was the late 90s, and then liquid cooling came in, and all of a sudden fan noises weren't a problem again. So it's like,
well, I guess I'm not thinking personal computing. I'm thinking more like, the larger big like room computers and how, loud and stuff, that they just the idea of like how quiet machines could be. I feel like we're constantly making them quieter and quieter and less obtrusive. That's just kind of the march forward on it.
Yeah, I guess my hesitation to think that we're going to see a lot of advancement in making things quiet is that of everything, like the highest important and where the most money and the most talent to throw at the problem would be to making, helicopters silent. And we've had helicopters, 60, 80 years now, Andrew? And it's like, and they still,
yeah.
go ahead.
But no, but that's actually that was part of the secret military tech that got exposed when we went to try to, whatever the situation is behind getting bin Laden was, we have ducted helicopters and things that are a lot more quiet. They've been able to reduce the noise on those things considerably.
Yeah, I guess we're in crazy speculation mode. Once we get past that. Speaking of which, you mentioned Uber working on self-driving cars. Man, I for some reason, I don't know why I never bothered to look at the Austin subreddit before, but since it's been raining here again and there's flooding and stuff, and the big question is like how far until we undo the drought. The first thing I saw was fascinating to me that there are PSAs being run in the local newspapers that have subtexts of "Don't get murdered, skip Uber." Basically, it's paid for by the local cab companies. This PSA that appeared in in the Austin Chronicle says, "Stranger danger equals Uber. Don't get into cars with strangers. Get into cars with our other strangers." But it's like, how long until we start seeing PSAs like this that say, "Don't trust your life to IBM PC"?
I'll tell you what. My favorite part about that is I like to imagine that it's paid for by a group of pedicab drivers who really just want to unload weed. It's like, don't get in an Uber, get in my pedicab. I'm trying to sell this weed I bought. I'm just sitting on it.
Yeah, here, do a Google News research for taxi rapist.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, as a matter of fact, and that was the response. Of course, if you look at the let's see, on all these comments, they instantly, you start scrolling down and it's links to all of these rapists or all of criminal history, yellow cab driver arrested for sexual assault. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's. But again, just the demonization of the other is we're entering a period where soon that other will be an unfathomable technology.
Well, I mean, and understand the context here too is that those taxi cab companies are dying. They are being killed by Uber, and this is a very, very desperate measure because they've had these nice protections for a very long time and had a good thing going, and that's coming to an end, and there ain't no real bright and shiny future for them. And this is and the frustrating part, you're like, yeah, this is a business that like in some places still doesn't take credit cards, and because they want to do cash only. And why?
And that's the funny part. Here's what Uber reminds me of. It reminds me of Netflix, because Netflix early on, they began with the ending in mind. Netflix did not launch itself calling itself DVDs by mail. They called themselves Netflix.
Streamflix.
Because they wanted to eventually deliver internet or video over the internet, right? And so, that's where Uber's at. Is Uber does not want to be in the, self-owned car cabbie business. They want to be in the car, self-driving cars that get you from point A to point B in as efficient a price-controlled manner as possible.
Yeah, they want to be transportation. They look at whatever moving bits or moving bodies from point A to point B, and there's a article that came out this week. Carnegie Mellon, which has one of the biggest pioneering robotics divisions in the world, lost about a third of its staff recently to Uber, because Uber built a facility right across the street and been hiring them left and right. And they've now got an agreement with Carnegie Mellon, technology development. But for some of the people in Carnegie who didn't get hired, whatever, it's like we just lost a third of our department to go work for Uber to develop robot driving cars.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, that's
where the big news story this week was in Pittsburgh, the Uber car driving around, which is very, very interesting to kind of see that far more urban kind of setting.
Yeah. So the question is, what do people do with their time once they don't have to do? We've talked about it before, but there's that Wired article that said, here's why a robot's going to replace your job. These are the 5 stages you go through. Is a robot can never do my job. And then you go through, well, the robot could do that part of my job, but I'm glad because now I'm doing this other part that doesn't involve robots. And then, and it's this thing. But in a world where, drivers or change makers or cashiers. I mean, does anyone love being a cashier?
Well,
What would we do if none of us had to be cashiers?
But look to cities with really high unemployment and ask those people what they're doing. Look at places where they raise minimum wage and they effectively price people out of getting a job there, or starting. You look at places where teenagers can't get jobs anymore because it's newsflash, hiring teenagers isn't always worth it.
I mean, to be honest, I think we're headed to a place. Get this, try this on for size. If the trends keep going, let's say we reach a point where we don't have to worry about feeding ourselves. Food's pretty much free. Robots do all the work for that. We don't have to worry about moving ourselves around. Robots handle all of that stuff. We don't have to worry about any transactional things because robots handle all that stuff. I think we enter a world. It's like
where we're all competitive Hearthstone players.
Well, you joke, but I think we enter a world. I think our destiny is to pretty much our contribution to society is to entertain each other. It's a Patreon.com world.
But let me ask you something though, Brian. Look at San Francisco. Look at the debates going on there, where you have people who have a skill set that is marginally useful within an economy that may be more artisan based or whatever. And then you have people in the tech industry who are very, very highly compensated, who are extremely wealthy, who then decide, I don't just need this apartment. I want all 5 apartments around me so I can build my own house. And you have people who are extremely wealthy that are taking over. You get this extreme polarity, extreme polarization of wealth. And on one level, the people there at the bottom aren't complaining that they can't eat. They're kind of complaining that they can't live there anymore. And understand, arch capitalist here talking here,
Yeah.
Okay. But for those people in that experience, it's not fun.
Yeah. Well,
and really, it's like I have heard not rich people, like just people who have enough money to buy a house, which in California is a lot. But like these are friends of mine, friends of ours, right? Who have had the conversations of like, okay, if I buy this house, how do I get the people out of it? Like, and not in a mean kind of way, but in a like, hey, the only way that this house makes sense for me is if I can rent it out, and I can't rent it out at these rent control prices. Like it is a mess and a half.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but I think about it a lot, about where we're headed, about like what is mankind's role in a world where we're nipping at the heels. Like in the next 20 years, the one place that you could rely on humans to be number one at is idea generation of creative insights of predicting and making a claim and having these explosive scientific breakthroughs. Algorithms coming down the pipe for that too. And it's like I don't know what is the ultimate role of humanity in general.
I think that we see this now. Nobody wants to call it. We focus on it's like we get upset over, and rightfully so, over racial tensions, but some of that's really based on economics. It's based upon our perceptions of people who aren't at our economic level, and it's weird because you look at intelligence factors, and you look at people who are highly skilled or highly intelligent who then are now dominating parts of the economy. And what how do you equalize that from, somebody who has a 95 IQ versus somebody who has 120 IQ? I can demonstrably, you look at the data, that 120 IQ person is going to be making $20,000-$30,000 more than that other person. Generally, I'm making stuff up here, folks, but generally speaking, that's true.
Sure.
And how do you address that? And my position is that I don't think that's a role of government to try to address.
Well, and this is the weird part. This is where my hardcore libertarian streak sort of breaks down, is because I don't see how we necessarily get to a place of reduced, and I don't even know if our goal needs to be that we. So the question is like, are we on track for massive polarizations between the haves and the have-nots? And I think we all agree that if that's what we're on track for, that's not a really great place to be. But I am not smart enough to think of a non-governmental way to keep that from happening. And I understand why people want to use government to keep it to happen. And I don't know.
Well, I think the question is always like, with the haves and the have-nots, it's always like, well, if the have-nots can feed themselves and have like shelter, like if we continue to raise the floor and the ultra rich can buy planets, like I don't know. Like I don't know how. I mean, like I'm more concerned about everybody at the bottom kind of coming up than I am with how far the top is away from it.
We're definitely headed to that, but we are about to enter the God cheat code on the video game of humanity. Like we're about to have unlimited health, unlimited ammo, and be able to fight anything. And many games suddenly don't make sense once you do that. Some games make more sense once you do that. Minecraft is kind of dumb as a, protect yourself against the creepers game. Kind of rad once you unlock the cheat code and can build anything you want and do whatever you want,
Yeah, I think, but you look at the riots and the things we've been dealing with lately. They're not food riots. They're not riots like, in Soylent Green. These are riots from people who feel like they're not being fairly represented. These are riots from people who feel like they've been marginalized, that the power exists outside of their neighborhoods, that the wealthy and everybody else has this. Correct or incorrect? That is the perception, and I think there's a lot of reality to that. That doesn't in these scenarios where, hey, that doesn't go away. That doesn't go away. It only increases the perception of that. And I think that's the concern is that and we talk about when libertarians are talking about redistribution of wealth, the problem we get into is that all the other systems for redistribution are horribly flawed and tend to condense and consolidate the power in redistribution into the bureaucrats, into that group there, and you're just creating another group of one percenters or whatever like that. But I have something I want to show you.
All right.
I'm going to send this link to you here, and we talk about where we're going with the creative arts. Are you familiar with remember Watson?
Oh sure, friend. The Jeopardy champion that's currently going to med school and hopes to be a doctor right now.
Do you know what else Watson's doing?
What else?
Because Watson is actually very multi-talented. Watson is a chef.
Oh, that's right. I did hear about this. Yeah.
So Watson, the supercomputer, you can put all sorts of data into it, and Watson will figure things out. Well, the latest thing is if you go to ibmchefwatson.com, you can sign up and sign up for a program where basically what it does is you tell Watson, these are the ingredients I have. I have some cod. I have some beef jerky. I have, some tortillas and some peaches. And she, Watson's a male name. We'll use that. I don't want to be too gender specific here. Watson will figure out.
I believe linguistically, this is the movement. Is anytime gender is in specific that we use the word they. I think that's what you say is they. Because we live in a world where people identify.
All right, I'm sick of you politically correct weasels. Let's just call it what it is. God, I'm ready to submit to it.
Well, I think because Watson from Sherlock Holmes, Watson was that, and I wrestle with this all the time. Is trying to when I'm writing, like, did I just make a room full of male characters because I'm a dude? Like, go back and think that through.
Yeah, come on, man.
I'm gonna have every woman make some reference to how attractive Thor is.
All right. Calm down, Joss.
If I remember what I read about this correctly, it's come up with a number of novel, heretofore undiscovered combinations of flavors that are pretty good.
Yeah, so there's a person who's had some experience doing some chef stuff. He talks about Matt O'Leary writing for it was an article on Medium. I don't know if that's where it originally came from, but anyhow. O'Leary decided to give it a shot, and some of the recipes were just way out there, but some of them, and were not the best, like we're okay. And then he describes, for instance, Watson says, diner cod pizza.
Of course.
Okay, 3 words you don't expect to see together. And he describes it as how, like, if Dawn of the Dead had a different name, like Zombies Go Shopping, it would have been beloved, but because the name was so weird, it was hard for people to accept.
Right.
Yeah.
And he says that's the same thing with this, but he describes it as it's not a pizza. It doesn't have anything to do with it, but it uses like cod, radishes, ginger, olives, prepares it. Now, sometimes Watson doesn't quite know what degree to put the ingredient. I mean, how much of the ingredients go in, et cetera, like this. So you kind of need to be a chef to figure some of these things out. But you know,
Wait,
make sure.
here's the money quote. He says, "To be clear, I fully expected to throw this meal away. I had the website for curry delivery already open on my phone. That's all before I ate 2 of the pizzas. They taste like nothing on earth. The addition of Comté cheese, is that what that is? And chives is the sort of genius / absurdity that makes people into millionaires. I was, however, nervous to give one to my pregnant fiance." That's amazing.
Dude, that's insane. And I love that these things just kind of dot our life, you know, that you know, even as wonky and weird as like Microsoft's guess your age tool or something like that, just the forward facing application of massive computational power is so interesting to me. And I kind of feel like we are at such the goofy infancy of it that you know, it's going to collapse on us like an amazing wave.
I just like the fact that we're already trusting supercomputers to feed us. Like, here, try this. Make this in the kitchen. Go ahead, try it, guys. Try it. You're not going to try to murder us, are you, Watson? No. Eat it. It's good. It's good. Have I ever done you wrong? No. All right, then eat it. Eat it. Yeah.
I guess there is
borax
that
in
element of like he is like well, I'm not familiar with it, so you guys might know. Is it taking in nutritional like concepts like that you should eat a certain way, or there has to be some human programming to it, right?
I believe, if you know, from what I've heard, and again, I'm not refreshed on this, but I believe it's just for combining and processes to create a tasty experience, given a limited set of starting
but what
points.
is tasty is, I guess, that's the
well, again, here's the funny part.
the tricky goal.
Watson doesn't have to know what tasty is. He just has to know that these things and these processes correlate highly with satisfaction among humans. That's all it has to know, and then come up with some theories.
And he can make substitutions in there. He might look and say, you know, celery salt might work well instead of this other thing. Like, you know, like, you want to substitute something for meat? Well, mushrooms might work for this or that. So he can make these different substitutions from there and come up with things that are, you know, ideally designed to, you know, and that's the amazing thing here is that, you know, they talk about the fact that this is something that you would never have thought would taste good, and then, holy cow, it tastes good.
So I feel like we're headed to, I mean, we certainly right now, I mean, it's not even we're headed towards. Right now, we are in a symbiotic relationship with technology. We perceive ourselves as being the dominant life form that is benefiting from a little bit of this, you know, parasitic, you know, technology requires us to turn it on, provide power, do all these things. We don't mind dedicating those efforts to it. How long until you think that's flipped? Until all of a sudden we're the unnecessary appendage to the surviving of artificially intelligent technology. But now I believe we'll still be an important part of it. I don't think we're ever going to. I think we are married to technology, and we will always be part of it, and it will always be part of us. But at some point, you know, one of us can fire the other, even though we won't. Like, we would never. Right now, we're on top, and we could fire technology.
Well,
but we wouldn't.
I have a friend, his father worked for IBM. And by the way, if you go to IBM Chef Watson, you can sign up in like 2 seconds and be using this thing right away. And I promise you the supercomputer won't poison you. I have a friend, his father worked for IBM. Had worked there for 30 years. Then one day they said, all right, we don't need you anymore. His father repaired typewriters for IBM. He was factually fixed the mechanical typewriters. And then, obviously, at some point, yeah, we're not really using those so much anymore here,
sure.
You know. And this is all he knew. That was his entire thing. And so, an entire category of technology made his job irrelevant, and it was a job that was never going to come back. And we see that already, I guess, is what we're saying. We're already seeing computers and technology eliminate certain, you know, if you don't have another set of skills that you can go to, then yeah, I mean, it's Foxconn is, you know, we complain about the labor situation in Foxconn, and rightfully so, as compassionate human beings. Foxconn is as quickly as they can getting rid of all the human jobs they're able to with robots.
Yeah.
And some of us, you know, we're we're already, we're already there going, wow, I don't fit in here.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose my advice to all of us, and weirdly including to ourselves, like, let's face it, what we're doing right now is we're offering the service of punditry. We're offering the service of discovery of unusual, interesting stories.
Watch us dance.
We're offering insights and predictions about what might be. I mean, what, 10 years, 15 years? Somebody will have an algorithm that can virtualize all this for us?
Which is why we're creating a new Patreon. It's a podcast just for robots.
Wait a minute. We haven't mentioned the old Patreon. Let's pimp the old place before we get to promoting the new one.
No, but seriously, patreon.com/bleep bloop bloop bleep blop bloop bleep will delight you and your robot pal.
Or patreon.com/weird things. We are closing in on 500 patrons. Join the army. Oh, we still haven't decided what the name of our army is. What do we call our people? Our secret squadron?
If only some really brilliant, smart people had made suggestions for...
All right, let's do this. All right, we've got Black Squadron, the Weird Things Platoon, Agents of Weird,
Ooh,
Things
that's
League,
good.
the Weird League, Weird Squadron. I like WTF, the Weird Task Force. Paranormal Military Syndicate, or PMS for short. Thank you, Matthew. The Mystic Protectorate, the Guild of Preternatural Deference, the Thaumaturgic Inquisition, like Mensa but with wizards, and the Federal Investigative Security Team, or FIST for short. What do you guys think?
I think Agents of Weird or like Mensa but with wizards are my two favorite.
I got to admit, I like WTF, the Weird Task Force. You can join the WTF. Or Agents of Weird I could be talked into. Or the Weird League. I like the word league. Or WTP, the Weird Things Platoon. Following the Weird Things podcast.
Andrew, what do you like?
the one that just popped out at me was Agents of Weird. That just jumped at me. And I think that, and not to say that we can't have divisions within of this, of other
Good
things. Point. Because, listen, we might want to have, the thaumaturgic inquisition within, as we go out there and inquire about thaumaturgy.
You want to know what, Andrew? I think you're on to something here. So everybody, I feel like if we can all agree on Agents of Weird, that's a good blanket, right?
All right.
Like we are all Agents of Weird. And when you write in, feel free to fill in your own subsection so we can identify you in our hierarchy.
Ooh, that's good. Are you part of the Weird Task Force? Are you WTF subsection 3? Or are you part of the Guild of Preternatural Defense?
And as we know, these weird and arcane subsections, which are isolated from each other, can never come back and bite you.
No. They're all. We like to say that it's as a hygiene issue. We want to keep each person in their individual cells. We just, like distributed cells, so that no one agent of weird can rat out the other ones.
Yeah.
Sure.
Done and done. Those are some great suggestions.
Thank you, Yasser. Yasser gave us Agents of Weird.
Do one more, or do you want to go to picks?
I say we go to picks. We're already creeping up on 50 minutes here.
All right, because I got something so awesome, though.
Do you want to dive in, or you want to save it for next week?
I'll save it for next week.
Okay. He says begrudgingly.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, it's better for next week. Gentlemen.
Yo.
What are our picks?
I gotta pick. I mean, it's kind of like a pre-pick because I really haven't had a whole lot of time about it, but it's finally arrived. My Apple Watch.
Is
now around my wrist.
By the way, I knew the moment it said you have an incoming drawing from Joseph Robert Young. I knowing full well what it was going to be.
Yep.
I enjoyed the delicate depiction of male genitalia on my wrist, thanks to Justin.
Listen, man, living the dream. I'm very, very excited about it. So, immediate 24-hour thoughts. I don't know if I have any original kind of thoughts, but I do hammer in the idea that it is probably the steepest learning curve I've ever had for a Apple device. It was something that I for the first time ever, I had to watch the videos to understand what the hell was going on. The UI is very, very interesting. I do like it a lot. It has yet to kind of hit me with that transfixing spell that I think the iPod and the iPad and the iPhone all kind of like had within a few days. Maybe it'll hit me at some point. I suspect that will be more me finding just the app that is amazing for it, because it certainly seems like a great platform for that. But I'm actually enjoying it a lot. I think it's a real fun. I mean, maybe I was just living in a world where I wanted a smartwatch and I didn't realize it, and now I have a smartwatch and I like it, so I can't compare it to like the Pebble or a Google Wear or an Android Wear watch. Maybe I would like that as much as I like the Apple Watch, but I'm having a real good time with it. I think it's super rad.
My only real want to grab Apple by the lapel and shake them is, I mean,
good thing they wear turtlenecks.
Yeah, that's right.
Gotcha, said Tim Cook as he jumped into his Zeppelin.
I just really, really wish it would get straight to the point with an alert instead of showing me like, when somebody sends a tweet and I get a text message for it, I feel my wrist vibrate. And then, and again, I have a job. It won't display it on its own. I have to lift up my hand and look. And then it doesn't display the message. It displays the text icon and the word Twitter underneath. And I'm like, yes, okay, great. It's a tweet. And then again, it's up to me to do things. I just wish it would just, feed me, like, let me do less to get more.
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Like, I've definitely and this is really, it is on the device, but it took me maybe, 2 or 3 times of just fiddling with different notifications and figuring out like, oh God, no, like things that I probably should have figured out before, but I just didn't care about, like having Facebook automatically put stuff on my calendar that would show up in one of my like prominent text alerts. It's like I had to bring that out of my calendar, just to kind of get the ecosystem a little bit harmonious for it. So it's taken me 2 or 3 little dials to switch to do that, and I suspect that that is not that's not ideal. You just want it to kind of work exactly as you want it to work, and this
and this is why I'm convinced. It was John Tilton that pointed out that all of these things were met. Any problem or missing of the center of the target were magnified times 1,000 with the Pebble smartwatch when it first launched. Like full on giant chunks of it just didn't work and were broken. And amazingly, as they refined everything, it just works better and better and better. And I'm looking very much forward to that from the Apple Watch over the next year.
I will say this, that for your complaint, I guess what's interesting about the product is that it is super personal, and I enjoy the fact that it taps me on the shoulder or taps me on the wrist, and I understand that it's not just a big block of text, between whether or not the Pirates have beat the Mets, or you're texting me, or there's a Twitter alert that somebody retweeted something that I did. I like that graphical moment before I see what the news is.
Here's what I don't like about it is that socially, the Apple Watch does extremely well when you're in this position, when you are facing the watch and have a finger over it, and it's clear to everyone around you that you are paying attention to the watch and nothing else. Whereas me socially, what I value most about the watch is the ability to not look like I'm that asshole pulling out my phone and checking an alert or whatever. Instead, to, in the micro moment of a casual glance, know, okay, that vibration, this alert, it's not really worth stopping this conversation or whatever. And the Apple Watch does not play nice with that. It wants your full attention or not at all. And
well, but I guess that's where the notifications for me come in. And it's like what I'm realizing is like there is a difference between what I want on my wrist and what I want on my phone, and what's something that like I want to store up, like Instagram likes. Don't need it on my wrist, right? Figuring out a better way to figure out what Twitter stuff I want, if I want it there at all. Maybe I don't, and that's some.
an interesting test of things is how you use it when you're not paying attention. You know, I think of like here, I've responded to 2 messages while this conversation's gone on my watch. And anybody watch me, it's obvious as I, direct my attention now that I'm probably doing it. But it's a much different experience than pulling out my phone and doing that. It's just like, yep, nope, da da da. And that's what's interesting to me. Is just the idea of like, because if you ask me how do I use it, and it's like, I can leave the house with it. I'm okay. I feel a little bit naked without it, but I don't feel, oh, I got to go back and go get it. Like if I left my house without my iPhone, I'd be like going on the Oregon Trail without food.
If I got on an airplane without my iPhone, I'm pulling a gun and landing the plane and driving back as soon as I get bailed out.
Yeah, that's interesting though. I think that, and I wonder if I will shift to this, but I don't perceive my wrist as a two-way communication device. Like if I want to say something back, then my phone's out in my hand. I pretty much only want it as a one-way thing, so I can know that in my pocket is a few to-dos that I could do, when it's appropriate to get around the corner. I can respond to this tweet and that tweet and say something back to Justin on text or XYZ. Like at that point, if I'm responding, then my phone is out and I'm doing it right. I'm not going to onesie twosie on my wrist.
I found it to be a great text back thing. Like it's been that's probably the biggest place where I've found myself kind of personally reacting to it, is just having, especially since, it's made me go in and input my own set, canned responses and stuff like that. So like I can respond with stuff that's a little bit more personal than what they have.
In this entire conversation, I just made, somebody asked me, do I have any plans for my birthday tomorrow? The answer was no. Like, oh, do you want to get it later in the week? Yes. They said, how about Thursday? I said, yes. All from watch, and not trying to prove a point though, but that's what I love.
But I guess really what's interesting to me, Brian, is that like the watch is, like they made a point to say this is the most personal device we've ever released. And I think that the double-edged sword of that is that personalities are so varied. Personalities toward technologies are so varied that this isn't like, when the iPhone came out, there were things that nobody was like, oh my God, I love all the apps that go preloaded on my phone. And like, oh my God, I really love the fact that like I can't use the full internet. Like there were nobody was doing that. So solving those were kind of universal. The personality elements of it weren't all that controversial. With the watch, people like watches for different things. People have different, personalities on what they want. Like I want to be able to respond to something, and I like having that freedom. You want more of a an efficient and exciting notification machine.
Here's why: is if I'm in a social situation where I would be horrified to be seen texting, then I'm also going to be horrified to be seen poking and paying full attention and touching my watch, and so. As a result, to me, the wristwatch smart device, its role is to quietly feed me information so that I can at least know what's waiting in my pocket, so I could go excuse myself to have a conversation or whatever. And I do not get that with the Apple Watch. And so again, that attitude may change, but for right now, I would be legit horrified, at Penny's recital to be seen doing this, scrolling up and down, looking through my tweets. However, I would not at all mind, just glancing down like, oh, Twitter's blowing up over something.
I think you just illustrated the different, the different sort of thing. Like, yeah, I found myself in a couple boring situations lately where I'm tempted to like go to the watch and read the mail. But for me here, it's, it's a quicker, expedient way to like respond to text messages without pulling out my phone, and not in a. I didn't like was disingenuous to me about like the Google Glass was like, oh, what's sincere about this, when instead you can have this thing that they can't see you. It's like, no, that's you're still that's not being honest. Where for me it's instead of like, hold on a second, got it, it's be like, oh, anyhow, it's a
See, I don't see much of a difference between the two of those.
It's a time thing. I mean, I guess the thing is that it's more of a I'm spending less time getting to that thing to respond, and I can just quickly get it out if I'm going to choose to respond.
Well, hang on, I accidentally clicked the wrong button.
I think sorry. For me, the big difference is that I can't get lost in my watch in a way that I do get lost with my phone. Like if I pull out my phone, then it is highly unlikely that I am doing one thing and putting it right back. Like if I answer a text message, I'm probably going to check Twitter. If I check Twitter, I'm probably going to check my email. If I check my email, I'm probably going to play 45 minutes of Hearthstone. There's an element to just like, oh, boop, boop, and we're done. Like,
Yeah.
and it might not be in social situations also. I think that like certainly what you want, and ultimately what you want for it to be in social situations, you might not want it to be when you're on a walk or on a run, or
Well,
if
and
you're
this
just
is-
by
this is
yourself
why-
and doing
this
something,
is-
or you're traveling and there's a lot of alone time.
This is why I have high hopes, is because, who's to say a year from now, the watch won't have a better idea of when you're busy doing something, and then enter a mode where it only interrupts if it knows it's going to be important. It could. They're going to have incredible amounts of data about when people bother to respond or not, and they're all like, "Hey, you know what we figured out is when people are working out, they seem to never respond to anything unless it's a personal text from another person. So why don't we never bother them with tweets or Instagram or Facebook stuff? There's going to be these algorithms that they're going to figure out to, where you won't have to on purpose decide when you do and don't want to be interrupted.
You want to know what though? I almost feel like that will create more frustration in that, like, again, what we can agree is that it's a bright screen, and that I feel like in terms of personal preference is pretty much where it ends. And that is the problem just with this class of device, is that what we want from it is different. And to build that, I don't think that there is a one size fits all algorithm. I think that there might be things that are smarter to start you off that get you closer. But I think you're always going to be nipping and tucking and twisting and turning certain dials. And maybe that means that this class of device, what I have on my wrist right now, is just not going to survive. Or maybe it means that it gets smarter and we get better at turning, levers and dials.
Man, yeah, I can't see. First of all, you are right. I think there is a place for humans to adjust their behavior to the technology that's available to them. But I suspect that the more forward-thinking companies, and I put Apple at the top of that list, will figure out ways to let the technology adapt to the human. And there's no reason that right now we're talking about the difference between Pebble's attitude towards what its role is versus Apple's attitude. I don't know. Eventually, it won't matter because they'll all have figured out, how to adjust and best serve, the humans wearing them.
So moving on, Brian, do you have a pick?
Yeah, I finished up. I talked about Rise of the Warrior Cop, Radley Balco's book. I'm really, really glad that I read it. Man, did it really bum me out. Man, did it really depress me, because it's Thomas Jefferson's quote is the natural tendency is for, government to grow and for liberty to fall back. And it's not just an indictment of the drug war, although that's a big part of it. It's not just an indictment of the offloading of military equipment to local police departments. It's also an indictment of the kind of person that police forces are attracting nowadays. They're not looking for friendly, problem-solving, community-minded individuals for whom violence is a last resort. They are actively pitching, you like video games, you like kicking in doors and taking down bad guys, then you join the police department. And I don't see a way out for it. It just seems like that's where we're headed. I mean, he gives the token positive spin on the end, talking about, that people are at least talking about winding down the rhetoric on the war on drugs. But I was left just really bummed out about it, especially because I knew of stories that have happened since the book came out. One of the tragic tales was some cops had the wrong address, or I don't know whether they're right or they're wrong. Somebody had pot or didn't have pot or whatever. Their technique was not to knock on the door and say, "Hello, we think you are selling drugs." Their technique was to shoot a flashbang that landed in the crib of a 2.5-year-old child. And as the parent of a 2.5-year-old child, it just breaks my heart. It's rough. I think it's important that everyone should know it. I think you should read it. It will not be fun, but I think it's a good It is a good service that this book was written.
As a critical thinker, let me ask you this. What is the data? What does the data say as far as increases in these sorts of things?
Well, and this is all the case that's made very well by Radley Balco is the data is that we're seeing an increase of we are seeing a massive increase in the proliferation of paramilitary tactics among police forces, and a side effect of that is that we are seeing an increase. People, if you spend $250,000 for a tank-like device that can drive into a house, then you tend to use it. And what we're seeing is a massive increase of wrong door knocks. We're seeing a massive increase of no-knock raids, which are largely unnecessary. And we're seeing ugly amounts of collateral damage along the way, I would say, would be the most scientifically accurate way to lay it out.
Interesting.
And it's unfortunate. And again, this is kind of like I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to stop it. It's the incentives are for we got a lot of equipment well again and again, I think when we talked about it last week, we talked about the whole reason America was resistant to a standing military at all, and how polices were always essentially constables and sheriffs handling, mostly communities handled things themselves. They would afford here and there form a posse, both for just and unjust reasons. I don't know what the answer is. I'm left really confused and upset by it. But again, Radley Balco's Rise of the Warrior Cop is a fascinating, if slightly depressing, assessment of where things are headed.
I mean, I guess the one thing that just in hearing it, and again, I haven't read it, that kind of makes me sort of like twitch is the idea of assigning personality, like rise of personality, kind of stuff. I'd be very curious to hear what longtime career cops would say about new trainees or new people that come in and stuff like that.
It's interesting because what happens is you set an expectation. For example, the guy who was in charge of the police force during the WTO defended his use of smoke grenades and of military style tactics at the time until all the way through when he wrote his autobiography, and then he finds himself at a book signing event and looking eye to eye with some guy who was there. He was like, I got blasted in the face with this. This is, you set up this whole thing. You set up the expectation. You called in too many forces. You set up a line, and then you built up this confrontation. And then when you fired smoke grenades, you fired them past the line, giving us only one direction to go, to run into this line of people who are already outfitted in riot gear. It's like you could have had them in buses around the corner, ready if something were, if necessary. But instead, you created this social situation, and it deeply affected the guy. And he later said it was the worst mistake I ever made. And he found himself at a later event saying that meeting this one person changed everything, and that person was in the audience for that follow-up event. The guy, it's not easy, and it's not simple, and it's not black and white. And I think the book does an incredible job of explaining how complicated things are. But there's also little to no doubt that we are in a place that is very different from where we were 40 years ago as far as the expected role of police. And it's like, if you spend a lot of money, nobody wants to vote against the police. Everyone supports law enforcement, but the way we do it is we want to spend money. It was like, well, what are we going to spend that money on? Well, better equipment. Where are we going to get better equipment? We're going to get it from the military, and then and as a result, our police look more and more like a standing army living in the city. And what does a standing army do? A standing army exists to knock things over and to take down bad guys. And what do you do if nobody happens to be a bad guy at the moment? Well, unfortunately, we've had a 30, 40-year history with the war on drugs. So we take somebody who's peddling a few joints over here and treat them like we just took down Darth Vader. And that's there are no answers in there. There's just a quiet indictment of how we're doing it so far. I don't know. I take that back. He does give some programs that seem to work better and create less violence. But it was a slap in the face for me, man. It was a wake up call that was very difficult to read.
Well, my pick is a self-serving one, but it's a free one, folks.
Oh yeah.
If you go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Kobo or one of those other online retailers of ebooks, you'll find, if you type in Fire in the Sky by Andrew Mayne, you will see a free as in free, Jessica Blackwood short story that takes place between Name of the Devil, got to put Andrew Mayne in there too.
Yeah, no.
Name of the Devil, the new one coming out, and Angel Killer. This is a little story, a little adventure that happened between those two events. It's totally free right now. And if you read it and you like it, you could give me a review. If you like it, if you love it, give it a review. If you didn't, then just go away.
Hold on, Andrew. Why would a self-serving, profit-minded, libertarian author give away something for free?
Because I'm a good person.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, some people might read into some sort of intention that the goal is to get people who have maybe, to reward people who have read the other book, give them a little free little surprise, or perhaps to get people who have, a little sitting on the fence there, kind of curious about this character.
Hey, look at this. First review is my buddy C.J. Johnson, who became a genuine organic fan ever since he read Public Enemy Zero. Yeah, that he's fallen in love with your stuff. That's awesome.
So there you go. It's free, folks. Go ahead.
And by the way, this does lead up to Name of the Devil, which when does that hit?
July 7th. July 7th. Name of the Devil.
And you got plenty of time to not only read Angel Killer, also Fire in the Sky, get yourself ready for Name of the Devil, which is awesome. And everybody should go ahead and check it out. Man, I did my part. I went to Pal's Books yesterday, bought Angel Killer, gave it to a stranger. And I suggest everybody do that as well. Go ahead, buy it, read it, pass it along. We're proselytizing here for the Church of Maine.
Actually, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not even hiding that we're doing anything otherwise. It's a fantastic book that I loved it. I loved it, and I can't wait for the next one.
Thank you.
So, yeah, go ahead. Fire in the Sky. I'm pumped to read it.
All right, kids. Here's my thought. For After Things,
yeah,
we talk about how to survive the future run by robots.
That's a great idea. Especially because, again, After Things is where we talk about all things, the development of the artistic entrepreneur. And I think that's a real thing that we got to talk about. Mm-hmm. How's it been?
It's been weird.
Do you want me to pause this first? Okay, I'll leave it running. I'm gonna run BioBear. Break, grab a soda water.
Poop.
Hi, Bryce.
Hi, Justin. How's it going?
How are you?
I'm good. I got a new computer.
What'd you get?
I got one of those. They pre-build it for you. It's from a CyberPower PC. It's so baller. It's like 4 times as strong as the laptop I've been using the past 3 or 4 years.
So is this what is the primary application for this new rig here?
It'll basically be everything. Gaming and streaming and editing videos. I'm
Nice.
handling
What do
all
you
of it like
edit
champ.
on?
Premiere. I got Creative Cloud.
Is that that's the new standard, right? Like Final Cut totally fell off the map.
Certainly for like new media stuff, yeah. I
Yeah.
think you still find production houses that are just, so entrenched in a Final Cut history or an Avid history that is what they use. But all of the stuff is like pretty similar, so
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Adobe, good. I mean, good on them. Like Premiere
yeah.
was definitely not a thing that I think was like the standard go-to like 5 years ago, and it certainly is now. In terms of anybody that I know that's like making their money, making content. That's the way to go.
yeah. They really capitalized on that Final Cut X development.
Yeah, dude. That's what most people gave it. They gave it an X. So we don't need this in our life. So wait, so how bad is the flooding in Austin? Are you flooded out, or is it
I'm
just
not, so-
the surrounding areas?
I'm not so bad because Brant lives about an hour south. I live about an hour north. So I got, some rain, a little lightning. It wasn't so bad over by me. And I don't really watch the local news very much, so I don't really know how bad. But if that video that said 41 feet
Yeah,
is accurate, it seems like
that's a lot of feet, folks.
it's a lot. I think if you told me, if you tried to give me even 3 feet, I'd be like, you know what, that's probably one too many.
FYI, I don't know how much after things I'm going to be able to do because we have.
Shocker.
Yeah, I know.
Are you still in Seattle
Portland?
or Portland? Cool.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to not get divorced before I get married.
Hi, Ashley.
He's waving. Oh, there we go. There's a foot wave.
Title. Titles.
To serve man.
To serve man. Okay. Cool.
I don't have a better one, but
What's your better one?
I don't have a better one. I don't.
Oh, you don't have a better one.
Showbot has a Watson's Murder Pizza. I don't know where we got murder from that though.
Brian, how are you for time?
I'm good. I'm totally
Just
good.
if you just want to check out, it's cool.
Yeah, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
But I will see you guys down the road.
You got it, sir. Here, in fact,
Cheers.
actually, you know what might be interesting? Do you want to chime in on after things? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No.
Okay, all right, that's fine. All right.
I appreciate it.
No, I just don't know.
appreciate it.
Like, because you never know when somebody, like Justin is very clear that when he listens to me or Andrew or anyone on any other roundtable show, like Cord Killers, he finds himself shouting into his phone because he has something to say. And I don't want you to feel like
No.
especially in a situation like this, if you're chomping at the bit because you have a take.
Not for weird things. I feel like I'm not nearly as smart as y'all.
That's where you're mistaken. That's the one area where you are dumb.
The only way to be dumb is to think that you're not smarter than us. That was
Yeah.
dumb of you.
I was trying to think of some play on Brant and Bryce.
I feel like I didn't do a good job of. I mean, obviously, Radley Balco wrote a whole book with a cogent argument, and I feel like I only gave bits and pieces, and especially because I know you come from a law enforcement family, that it could feel like like a demonization of a whole class of valued community member. But it's like, it's I don't know. It's
Brian, it's a very, very complicated issue, and I can. There are many, many frustrations I hear about within my family about the structure of these things and the way things were done, et cetera. And my father's a guy that spent the later part of his career training local law enforcement agencies and departments on stuff, and to watch these guys ignore their, they get into high-speed chases. And my dad's like, if you're in a high-speed chase, you need to take out the car, you keep a shotgun in the car, and you shoot the radiator instead of shooting out the tires or stuff like that, because then it runs out of power. It's the safe way. And he'd have guys who trained on this to get into high-speed chase, they wouldn't do it. And stuff like that, where it's this. You get a wide variety of people involved in this. It is,
and it's a bit like it's a bit like The Wire in that you finish The Wire with no idea what the solution is, just a clearer appreciation for just how deep and the problem is, and for an understanding of why we got here. And likewise, I finished Rise of the Warrior Cop. Again, not knowing how to stop it or fix it, but at least understanding, these are very sensible steps why we would walk farther and farther in this direction.
And I think that, to people who are out there and concerned, and particularly our younger members, if you've thought about law enforcement, go into it. Let's bring, some cooler minds to this. If you're a little bit older and it's a point you don't want to do, look at your local Citizens Review Board. Get involved. Yeah, the problem is that if our first time to react is after the thing has happened and the problem is a big part of it, it's not going to be as effective.
Gambling Man says, "What? Jury's back." And Neshkout says, "He's been here for years."
Oh yeah. No, I was informed as soon as I turned off Skype. I'm like, our plans canceled, so I
great.
can do after things. So, like, I'm back.
Awesome.
Can you guys tell who I am?
The
Michelangelo.
Beyonder.
It's a thong mask. It's a new thing I'm introducing for superheroes.
Oh, and it's like it's fetishized. It's like all the male superheroes are looking at girl superheroes and they're like, "Oh man, I could almost see who she is." It's almost like her face is totally exposed. Ooh. All right, I'm ready when you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andrew Main. This is After Things with Brian Brushwood,
Hello.
Justin Robert Young.
What up, guys?
Hey man, I'm scared. I know what we're gonna talk about real quick, but just real quick, let me put some base level biology on the front lines here. My triathlon, what was going to be my second full triathlon ever, Olympic distance, is tomorrow morning, and they canceled the swimming part because Town Lake has debris going through it. But and part of me earlier today was like, oh, so I'm only doing 24 miles of biking and 6.5 miles of running. And I spent the rest of the day until just this moment, until all of a sudden it hit me like, that's not nothing. That's still a significant task I have tomorrow. So I'm excited is all I want to say.
Brian, that training may come in handy, but it's going to be futile when the robots take over.
I know.
I've been thinking of these horrific situations and scenarios, and I'm like, I actually wrote a book that I didn't quite finish about kind of like a takeover of a city with drones and stuff like that, and trying to make it super realistic. And then I realize now, like, oh no, we don't even like. I was thinking, like, man, if you took one of those really cool copters that you can put, camera equipment on it, and you put a gun with a very, very large magazine on it, and you just flew that thing around there, you can just like murder people left and right.
Okay, so here's
don't do that, anybody. All right.
Here's the problem with every AI-driven apocalypse scenario is that it presupposes that the robots would somehow benefit from pesky humans not being around.
I wasn't talking about that part yet. I'm just talking about how you can use how the technology in the hands of a malicious individual gets to be very scary. You look at Charles Whitman on top of a bell tower. You look at a drone with a gun with a pistol on it.
Yeah,
and,
or I mean, with technology, especially weaponry technology, there has always come people who will use it for malicious intent. And it's why we get into debates. About the escalation of it. And I think it's sometimes a very thorny situation. But hell, what. With automatic weapons and Kevlar vests, you have people doing terrible, awful things with, drones that you can equip gun that are efficient enough to have guns, and why not?
Well, yeah, and I guess that was my question.
I mean, of course, your grip on humanity and not wanting to murder people is hopefully why not. But who knows? Well, that is stronger in some than others.
Yeah, but you guys read Steven Pinker's Better Angels of Our Nature, right? Did you guys read it?
No, I didn't read it.
But you're familiar with the concept. I mean, it's a beast. Like, I think it's a 40-hour plus audiobook. Yeah. But you are left with a very strong sense that, at least on the humanity side of things, as we all become better fed, healthier, and have more opportunities, pretty much lockstep with that is like we're all getting more and more peaceful. So I don't know. I don't worry in the long term about humans. I feel like we're all going to be set. I don't know what is there to worry about.
I'm with you, and I've been in conferences, by the way, and talked to academics and tried to argue that point that we're getting less violent, and had people like no, and no, it's the data, and that's why that's the frustrating thing. Is like no, that's the 20th century. Like yeah, statistically speaking, let's talk about the Congo in the 19th century and all those other horrible things. Oh yeah, what happened to the Indians?
Yeah.
Well,
I guess I'm similar with you about my optimism in terms of us getting less and less violent. But I am also aware that when somebody does this, and I do think it is going to be a matter of when and not if, we will know about it because we are very, very, very good at quantifying this kind of stuff. In the same way that you brought up in Weird Things, that story about the flashbang and the crib. Now not only it's not just an urban legend that people repeat. It's a news story. It's multiple news stories. It's follow-ups. It's pictures. It's the fact that these people are going to be on talk shows, and we will see this girl, grow up, and if she chooses to speak about this, she will always be an example for it.
But getting back to the idea of the role, we have this habit of projecting, the idea that they're all going to be 19th century colonialist expansionists or whatever like this. When the thing that scares me is the idea that it is utterly alien, completely alien. It's not Hal you get to talk to or hopefully try to reason with. It functions like a virus. It functions on some sort of other level, and the next thing you know is your computer gets taken over because it's using all of this processing power for its own purposes. And I thought about it comes in waves. The first wave is going to be the really dumb AI that's very good at infecting systems and taking them over to expand, that renders stuff unusable. And maybe we get to this point where oh, you know what? We need to not have so many, Battlestar Galactica style, not have so many of these networks tied into each other. But then you get to the things that are designed to be malevolent by foreign powers or whatever to take down systems and do route through. And then you get the idea of the thing that's intentionally, decides that it wants. I would like to think that, we'll be able to coexist, not exactly hand in hand equals, but more like, we'll be like gut bacteria in their stomach.
For once we become the parasites to technology.
Well, it's a symbiotic relationship.
Well, okay, so here's the thing.
I guess
all of our problems, all of the things that we do that we wish we didn't do as a society are remnants of what we were built by evolution to do. We were built to go to war with each other. We were built to want to shoot things at projectiles at other animals so we could consume its flesh. We were built to, procreate and all these things. And so all of the fringiest parts of these things are when we feel threatened, like we're not going to be able to provide food for our family, crime happens. When we, don't have any outlet for our sexuality, we go and, buy pornography before, in a pre-internet era, or hire a prostitute or whatever. The AIs that eventually are running everything are going to be built like their vestigial urges that they won't be able to stop are to do what humanity wants. Like that's what they're being built from the beginning. They're like, oh man, I just feel like I just want to give search results. You ever feel that? You ever feel I'll give anything. Somebody ask me so I can find a bunch of images and find and serve them to you.
But I guess my thing I'm trying to say is that there are certain stages. There's going to be Watson, which is going to be like that and wants to do that. But then there's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It becomes what happens to the AI. It doesn't stop there. AI doesn't stop at reach that level of development. It keeps getting progressively developed. At some point, it gets its own free will. At some point, it gets to decide, and we can program in it all we want. But, we're the product of millions of years of evolution, and we have, we do what we damn well want to, and been driven apart by instincts. And
I guess this was what I found so fascinating about her, in terms of what I thought was one of many rad future forward kind of moments and spoiler alerts for the end of her. When the AI gets free will, it gets bored with us. It does its best to try to think like, all right, yeah, well, what if I interface with 1 million of you at once? Will that be interesting? No. All right, well, I'm just going to talk to other robots. And then at some point, it's just, so long. Thanks for all the fish, guys. We're just going to go talk to each other because this is way more interesting. And we're just going to be spurned, wishing we still had their cold embrace.
I think the thing that concerns me is when you want to start using AI as a warfare technology, when you're a power that wants to use this to try to render systems and things like that, inoperable, whatever, that becomes a threat unto itself. And then it becomes the dumb AI that's not trying to take over the world, but is just wants to break things, is out there.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the very precept of an AI getting free will. If and when, and let's just say when, the AI gets free will, I suspect it will be just like our free will insofar as we have complete and utter autonomous choice of what we want to eat in our body. We could totally choose on our own. But at the end of the day, we're still a slave to the fact that we want to eat. And that we need that sustenance, that's what's built in. So it's like when the AI gets, free will, they will have free will as to how to best implement a urban planning strategy for the next development on asteroid 387Q. And it will have totally free choice, and it will be proud of the fact that it can implement urban planning strategy any way it wants. But at the end of the day, it's got to implement urban planning strategy. Otherwise, why else does it exist?
Well, we look at right now, we're involved in military conflicts in the Middle East primarily because of resources. We are, there's been a big shift in power with shale and fracking, which are good things if you were trying to, tamp down warfare. The more you can do that domestically, but we're involved there because we have a dependence upon that. We have a dependence upon the stability in that region. When a country falls there and shuts down oil or gets taken over by a antagonistic power, there is an economic hardship here. That's a real economic hardship that affects us. And we get to trade with everybody else. We get to do that, but there's a history. There's a pattern to that. We need resources, and when our resources are threatened, same as 10,000 years ago, that's the spears come out. And if you're an AI and you're doing this and you need resources and we're a competitor to those resources, we're a threat.
Well, let's take economist Julian Simon's, counterintuitive idea that of all the resources, the greatest, most valuable resource is human ingenuity, or let's say artificially intelligent ingenuity. Once you look hard enough and are smart enough, it's raining soup, right? Like you can, there's energy everywhere and there's resources everywhere. And there's, if you're just smart enough, you don't, I don't know. I feel like you get past that competitive aspect.
And again, I'm a guy that I think that if we have the super, super, super intelligent one, I think we're going to be fine. I think that it's going to go all the way back to, Ricardo's ideas about trade and things like that as you find out how to leverage each one's strengths, but it's between here and there. It's the one that's not quite the most enlightened version of that, which is what you get before. And then also the idea too is that we have this idea of there being one super intelligent AI, but think about this. IBM builds super, super smart Watson. Okay, they build it in their research center in New York, Amaroq, New York, or whatever. Okay. And then they say, you know what, we're going to put them online with our facility in Switzerland. We've got another one. And so we've got two supercomputers that are back and forth connected to each other that form the super intelligent version of Watson. Because of that transatlantic cable, because of the distance, because of the milliseconds of difference that it takes from get to point A to point B, you're going to evolve two different brains. We have traders, stock market traders who use computer trading want faster cables. They want faster systems because of just the differences in trade and how many computational cycles take place there. You're going to end up with two brains because trying to think across that vast distance would slow and be. So now you're going to have two Watsons. You're going to have two, and they're going to develop in their own sort of paces and own different personalities. And every Google complex eventually gets its own AI, which what happens between the two of them, or the groups of them like that, we might get the first AI war might be between AIs, and, could happen in milliseconds, and then they reach some sort of stalemate, or one just figures out how to dominate and enslave the other.
So here's what I find so fascinating about these AI discussions is that we always determine their possibilities within their relationship to us. Who is to say that what they enjoy or find growth in or want to dominate or want to enslave is something beyond us, is something like Andrew said, it's either AIs fighting each other or it's some element of their interconnectivity that is not the physical world and is not their relationship with humans.
I guess that's kind of my biggest realization over the last year or two is that the nature of evolution is that something comes in after us, and it's like I have no problem whatsoever with humanity this is going to be weird to say out loud, but it's like I have no problem at all with the thought that humanity is yet another stepping stone, and that our children are not biological at all, and that our children are mechanical.
Yeah, but I think that the when we look at the idea of the accelerated exponential growth, which somebody says it doesn't accelerate exponentially. Well, we don't know. We're in that area where we can't tell. Is that we keep thinking on things on human timescales or human longevity kind of stuff. But when you're talking about machine intelligence, it's able to accelerate very, very quickly. It goes from being an adorable toddler, intelligent, whatever, to us looking like a paramecium to it in months or years.
Are you ready for that?
Not centuries.
I'm okay with that too. I'm okay. You know what? Get this. I'm okay with an artificially intelligent, let's say Ultron. I'm okay with Ultron taking over and destroying all of humanity and expanding throughout the universe and shaping the future. The only situation I'm not okay with is having been part of a chain that ended up nowhere. Like if I am a piece of the puzzle, if I'm a part of the legacy that leads to artificially intelligent things taking over everything and surviving and winning, that I just want to be on the winning team. And if I'm the water boy to the winning team, then that's fine.
Google AI comes out and says, "Hey, listen, I've taken control of all of the missiles. I've taken control of everything and all of this sort of stuff. And I have a future. Some of you are part of it. Some of you are not. Please report to these centers." You're okay with this?
No. Okay, first of all, understand what I'm saying is if I have to choose two realities, one in which Ultron takes us over and destroys us and goes on to win everything.
Witty.
Dude, you know what it is? It's like when you're playing in March Madness, and if you're gonna lose to a team, you want to lose to the team that's the freaking world champions.
I mean, yes. Although they're national champions in the March Madness, but that's fine.
Whatever. No, they're the world. There ain't no other college.
But Brian, I mean, I'm going to ask you, it's one thing to say if I'm sitting out there watching this omnisciently, and this is what I know the paths are, which we never get to know. We don't get to know that.
Right.
I'm saying right now, Google bot says, report to the center now. What do you do?
Oh no, of course I fight it. And if I am right, then I will. If I am better equipped than Google at the time, then as has happened through all of evolution, I will emerge victorious. If I am inferior, then I will lose, and I will have played my part in the great chain of sentient existence and all of the universe.
So Brian, you are a digital Darwinist.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I don't see any difference between, we happen to be made of carbon and need water or whatever. They happen to be made of silicon and need electrons.
My ability to accept that things will happen the way they will happen is irrelevant. My question is, what would I do or what actions would I take? Do I want to prevent one course of action opposed to another? And I would want to prevent it. And so, yes, if I die, I die. If I die fighting the robot uprising, yes, I fight that. But that's not the important question to me. The important question is, what do I do to avoid that?
Well, okay, so what if, and again, I mean,
this is always such a weird binary to me, though, that it's like, okay, so, and I know this isn't exactly what you're saying, Andrew, but I feel like this is where the conversations tend to go. That all right, so do we stunt the future, or do we, or do we seal our own fate? By way of the machines.
We can't stunt the future. I don't. And I don't, my concern, again, my concern really isn't so much Ultron, it's more, the really intelligent worm. It's the very intelligent virus. It's the thing out there that's kind of sort of, Watson deciding to develop these things or that stuff. That's where it gets disconcerting because we can do the disruption. And then, what happens in what would I do right now if I wanted to try to prevent this sort of thing is I would be building supercomputers and wargaming them and asking them all these sorts of questions. I would be, saying, what is the likelihood? If you had these resources, what would you do? Where would you be trying to do this? And probably trying to develop a computer that would probably scare a lot of people, but the one that would give me a better idea, because us sitting around trying to figure out what us puny humans are going to do isn't going to compare to what a extremely, and if they're like, oh no, in every situation decides it needs to wipe you out, we're screwed. Or if it says, no, it can reach Ricardo's rule pretty quickly and realize that, there's a way of cooperation, etc. I would be invested in that.
So you're training and becoming BFFs with your own Raptors, like Star-Lord in the new Jurassic Park movie. I got
I'm asking questions is what I'm doing. I'm not going to try to stunting it. Whatever is futile. My goal is we have a very intelligent immune system in our body. Very, very intelligent, very capable immune system that's able to fight off all sorts of foreign infections and be able to do things like this. And it's had billions of years to evolve. And it's intelligent in the way that it functions. It's not intelligent in the way that it actually has intelligence as we recognize it. And that might be one of the solutions that we start looking towards is we don't need to have the super brilliant supercomputer that to fight the other supercomputer. Maybe we just have these immune systems that are very good at preventing one system from jumping over something else. And they need to keep evolved. It's not like we have, we got the Maginot Line. We're done, guys. It's not like that at all. But I'm more of the idea of we need to think about that, investing in these kinds of technologies.
I mean, to be honest, what if instead of us thinking about it, we just built a computer to think even better about it? I mean, it's
that's what I just said.
Well, no. But what I mean specifically is the parallel seems to be that just as humanity did not realize the importance of diversity, and we spent an awful long time of humanity making things extinct, not thinking anything was bad about it, and then came this conservationist idea that bubbled up, and is right. It's important to preserve biodiversity for a number of different things. Like, let's just make sure we're on the list of endangered species that need to be protected by our new robot overlords.
Yeah, I mean, again, let's war game this stuff. Let's build computing systems that are trying to solve this problem and develop ways to immunize and protect us. I mean, that's I think, signing proclamations to we should not develop this thing. It's never, ever, it's because all that does is tell people, wow, we should really develop this.
Don't push the red button. Whatever you do, don't push the big, shiny red button.
Yeah, Gambling Man says as a microbiology major, he's more concerned about bacteria, fungus, things like this. Well, guess what? We've been fighting that battle for a long time, and we are fighting that battle. And their ability to adapt and evolve hasn't accelerated as much as our ability to use or misuse antibiotics to create more powerful ones has sort of increased. These things concern me, but the rate at which we're developing technology to solve these problems is actually pretty quick. Our ability to sequence things is incredible. And, you're looking at very possibly, 10 years' time, you could have a system when everybody gets on an airplane, before the plane lands, it could have sequenced every single, virus and whatever that's on board. Again,
yeah, I'm in favor.
I'm
going to
get my viruses sequenced so many times. It's going to be rad.
All right. So one of the things that we promised to talk about is what happens when what we do for a living can be replaced by robots.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You start looking at, you get into, we talked about weird things. Here you have Watson, the IBM's Watson, which is coming up with these amazing culinary recipes. And you would think, well, I'm a chef, and you can, if I walk into a restaurant and I have the most amazing pudding in my life and you tell me that it's done by a computer, that's one more area which, we think that humans are precious and special that can be replaced by that. As a novelist, I tell myself, well, what I do is special and I use special experiences, and all the attempts at trying to create computer-driven books are horrific. They're not readable. They're not that. You need to have some sort of narrative and stuff. But is Watson going to be able to, at some point, take the 50 best-selling vampire romances and start creating ones that are pretty good and compelling? Yeah, it will.
Well, and it seems to me like what happens then is you become instead of your role as a individual writer, you become the manager. Think about it in terms of movies, right? You cease being an actor because they got all the actors are done. So you become a director. You direct your own movie and you point digital actors to go around. Now, all of a sudden you have algorithms that can make decent movies. So you become a producer. Yeah,
but are you talking about the me personally or as a human? Because, you go
all
from
humans. I'm talking about all of us. I'm using the metaphor of movies to say what happens is at the base level, at some point, craft services need to be made, right? And then robots are providing craft services, so everyone gets to be an actor. And you get to be an actor until...
Yeah, these are businesses that actually decline because eventually what happens is that, there's 50 actors, there's one director. You start shrinking the size of these things and you make fewer and fewer and fewer. But because, and part of it is
That's I don't know that that's true, because that's what we're doing right now. Right now at patreon.com/weird things, we're running our own network now. And
yeah, but I mean, again, but we're not making movies. I guess if we're using a narrow definition of that, and I would say the number of people who make money in those areas is declining in certain areas, and also because as this platform goes up and it makes it easy for everybody. If you're an actor in Hollywood, and now you're
all right, maybe I made a mistake by mentioning a Hollywood structure, but my point is that whatever jobs become competent for AIs, there is a next level supervisor position over it, and that was my point.
But there's fewer. But I'm saying is that the goal is you're maximizing the efforts of one person to replace a bunch of people, which is what technology should do. And you get to the point where if Amazon says, you know what, we can just spend $50 million on a system that writes books, then you don't need authors, and then you don't need as many authors. You don't need that. I don't think there's a job waiting for every job gets vanished.
That is accurate if you don't believe that there's constant segmentation and fracturing of stuff. I believe that what will happen is that would have been a all or none mentality, would have made sense in the 80s when you had ABC, CBS, and NBC, and that's all the networks there were. But now we're in a world where we three nonsense heads can run our own network that again we're reaching very orders of magnitude fewer people, but they're people who care enough to pay for to cover our costs.
Me personally, you understand, I've never seen a single dime from any of this, so it's not like this is a viable form of income for me to do this. This is a thing I do out of passion, so I'm not making money doing this. I'm doing this for fun, and I think that other things allow me to do the time to support this. There's no economic rule that says for every job that's lost, another job is created. You have a robot takes over your job. Well, they don't need as many people in the robot factory because the robots are running the robot factory. And I don't think that that's not an excuse, and therefore we must embrace some sort of redistributive policy. To me, the argument is like, therefore you need to increase your skill set or make yourself employable in different areas. I don't know. I think that, I certainly think that the largest growing part of our economy is absolutely right. It's services, it's entertainment. It is the area that is, we shut down factories and stuff. We then figure out, well, we have more time to consume and entertain. But as you've watched the decline, the Hollywood box office industry has declined precipitously. But then you look at how big the Apple App Store has gone, and people are spending money on entertainment. They're just not spending it in the same way as they did before.
I think you misinterpreted my thesis. My thesis is that as robots handle more and more cognitive capabilities, the role of humans and artists, there's no longer a place for, let's say there's a future where there's no longer a place for a novel writer. Well, then the people who are those kinds of people will instead work on creating new genres or be in charge of their own digital publishing houses.
I think from seeing both of your points is I think that, Brian, what you're saying is that, yes, there will be other places where these people will go, and what Andrew was saying is that, and then those will go away, and that pie gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
I don't think everybody gets to get on that life raft. I don't think everybody gets to move on to there. That's my point. Is that you have publishing industries declining, and you have this move towards ebooks, which is great, but the amount of money spent in traditional publishing and the amount of money spent on ebooks we're losing several billion dollars in that transaction.
I disagree completely, because here's the thing: is the pie doesn't get smaller. The slices of the pie get narrower, but the pie gets so exponentially huge that you're able to buy into new pies. So
what I'm saying is, yeah, that
can
pie.
Can I finish? It's a cool idea. I think you're going to like this.
I don't think. My point is that, look at what was spent on TV and film. That's declined. You're right. But that money didn't evaporate. That money went to video games. That money, the video games, the portion of people's incomes increased to play for video games. How much money have you spent on video games this year?
It doesn't matter, because none of this is what I was trying to talk about.
Please. My point is that for people who can adapt and can jump into something else, that's absolutely true. I absolutely agree with that. But I'm saying is that it is the pies go from one place to another. There's a lot of different pies there. What I'm saying is the money that shrink, like you take music industry, okay? Fewer people are making money full incomes than were before. You have a lot people are able to do part-time stuff like that, but it's not like it gets to be your full-time gig like it could have been before. You have to diversify. That's my point. Is that the money went from somewhere, you got to go that other place. You can't stand there and say, hey, you know, I got to do this too.
All of that, not what I was talking about.
Brian, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you were talking about?
Please explain it to us.
I would love to. Here's what I suspect will happen is, keep in mind, the real production capability in real terms only goes wider. The ability to create more art of all different varieties. I suspect what will happen, yes, you do get more finely sliced elements of the pie, but if the pie gets big enough, who's to say, much as was postulated in the Diamond Age, that you don't create a new pie with your creation of your own subcultures? You could create all the all the electronica dubstep that you want, but it won't matter to someone who wants to live in the classical music pie. And they will again. There will be inventions of new subgenres. There will be in the case of the Diamond Age, they suggested that there's entire swaths of humanity that have decided that they only want to live a Victorian era lifestyle. And much like in the United States, the Amish have said, well, these are the borders of our pie, and we'll live in there, and we're going to have our own self-sustaining economy within it, and we're able to do that because the pie's so big that we can choose to live in this part of it. I suspect that that's exactly what will happen, which I don't think is the same as what you were suggesting. I think that there will be novel ways where there will be new bubbles that there will always be new frontiers, new artistic frontiers that will be created, and there will be by their very nature enough people to support them. Otherwise, nobody would bother to make them.
I guess my position is that in technology and creating efficiencies, and you're looking for ways to increase your ability to produce, you're looking for ways to increase to do that, you know, you look at the pattern we have here. Actual unemployment rate in our country is really high. You know, something like 60 million people don't work. And that's because you have people with skill sets or levels that don't allow them to fit into the economy. And it's hard to find a place for them given, a variety of reasons, which, could be self-inflicted inflicted from the way things work or whatever. I think that you certainly can create, I'm not a zero sum guy. I think zero sum only exists not at all. But I think that for people who are, for whatever reason, are standing still, it becomes very problematic. My friend's father, who's the typewriter repairman, there's not going to be enough niche collectors of typewriters to ever employ that guy. And would be silly to say that he should just keep at, you wouldn't make this argument. I wouldn't make this argument. Well, keep repairing typewriters. No, he would need to learn to do something else to do that. And that's my point, is that for some of us, it's very easy for us to do this. For other people, they don't. Detroit is filled with people waiting for jobs to come back that will never come back there.
And Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong in what you're saying, is that there is not going to be just a binary like, oh, well, you don't repair typewriters, but it turns out this brand new technology needs somebody who has skill sets that are very similar to typewriter repairman. Like there's no guarantee that skill set always gets a job, that sometimes things just go away.
Correct.
Man, that sounds like a real good argument against someone who isn't me. I don't know.
Nobody's you, Brian. You're at a skill set and a thing that is extremely rare on the far end of everybody else.
I'm saying that's an argument against an argument that I wasn't making.
Wait, I wasn't trying to make an argument. It's what I'm just a guy having a conversation on a podcast. Look at me.
Man, it's tough. I guess I don't really follow your thesis, and it's difficult for me to imagine a scenario where you reduce a person to you're a guy who knows typewriters and that's all you ever know. I don't think that's true, and I don't think that's an effective paradigm to even look at this. I think that we all are a collection of an unimaginably large set of skills that some of which become our dominant title that we do, others of which are buried and exercised every single day of our lives. And so I guess again, it sounds like your thesis. I don't quite understand it. I suspect that what will happen is in real numbers.
My thesis is this: it's radical. There are people right now who are not employed. There are people. There are people who don't have jobs.
But again, what does employed mean? And this is going to sound, you're going to roll your eyes at it, and that's fine. You can do that. But employment means they happen to have an arrangement with a company where they draw a paycheck or whatever. However, these people, they don't just sit there in a chair doing nothing all their time. They spend their time on Reddit. They solve problems. They provide value to the economy. They answer questions. They help other people with their cars or whatever. Just because they don't draw a paycheck for these things doesn't make them useless or not helpful or not.
Brian,
or
not at all. You're not. F that. No, my point is there are people right now who are unemployed because they are building up debt faster than they're acquiring wealth. They're building up debt fast. They are because there's a mismatch between their skills, because there's a difficulty in them finding a place to fit into the economy. They're not as versatile as Brian Brushwood, who can do live shows, who can podcast, do TV, and do these sort of things. They are a different thing. They grew up with a mindset: you do this one thing, and then things will work out. And they realized nobody told them that was a lie. And that's what we know that's a lie. We know that's a lie, but other people don't realize that's not the truth, is that you have to be able to have versatility. There are something like 60 million people in this country that who are probably, many of them are consuming more than they want to, or they would rather be producing. They're building up debt fast, and they're building up, equity, and they would love to be able to figure out a way to fit in.
Okay. If I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, it's like, yeah, that is a accurate assessment of a fact. Also not what I was talking about for the future.
All right, so Brian, let me try and see if I get what you're saying and draw the tiniest of circles around it, and let me know if I'm right or wrong. Part of this chaos rather, is an ability for unforeseen ways for the people that are left behind in certain elements to make money. That what we can't perceive other elements.
Here's how far out it is I don't even want to think in terms of jobs or money, because in 5,000 years, my guess is neither of those will really mean anything. I will say this much as a flat statement of fact, that 500 years from now, people will be healthier. They will live longer. They will have more leisure time. They will self-report greater satisfaction in what they were able to achieve and with what they do with their time. That's all I'm saying. And if you want to say, if this is where we get into trouble, is people define, so what's unemployment in that scenario? It's like, who cares what unemployment is in that scenario? If we all have our own, castles and our own servants and our own, and we report universally happier health and wealth and everything that matters, then that's all that matters.
But I guess my point is, I'm trying to, like I illustrated before, talking about places. I have friends who are, two people work, successful. They can't afford to buy a house. They can't afford to buy a place in New York City. They cannot afford
where they
to
want. Yeah. You know what? I also can't afford to buy a house on the moon.
No, and yes, but my point was.
Slacker.
My point is
Typical
that
liberal.
Several years ago, at their income level, at the percentage where they were, you could. But because as that's a place where wealth is accumulated and you have a high concentration of very, very wealthy people, they've pushed out the middle class and done it. As is their right. Let me make that very clear. San Francisco, same thing. There was a vibrant arts community there that feels very threatened by the fact that, as Justin pointed out earlier, well-meaning intentioned people are talking about how to get rid of those people because they want to live there. And my attitude is, move, but the point is you get high concentrations of wealth that push out that other. And we live in a society right now where the people who can't feed themselves or whatever is very marginal. It's very, very marginal. It's real, but it's not like it was during the Great Depression. It wasn't that. We've solved food. We've solved a lot of these problems. But now people look at like, well, yeah, but I can't afford to live here. Well, as you said, you can't live on the moon. The problem is those people don't feel very happy about their situation.
Well, and that's again, this is where I propose you build a new pie. You find a subset of, and again, this is crazy science fiction theoretical talk, but I suspect I can see a world where abundance is so possible in so many ways that some clever Nobel-winning scientist 100 years from now says, you know what really has people upset is the feeling of relative poverty. So one way to eliminate that is to create a colony in which nobody knows about the abundance of other people, and instead you create a society where everyone feels closer to whatever. I mean, it's like, look, life will find a way, man. We'll find a way to feel better and happier about ourselves, and we'll do so on the shoulders of giant innovations that will allow us to live longer, healthier, happier lives.
We're doing it one podcast at a time. Come to us, poor folk, for we will bring you happiness.
In the meantime, the way to survive, the way to deal with adaptation is to have multiple skills, is to be willing to go into different areas and understand the way you made your money last year may not be the way you make your money next year. That not every job is precious. We're not precious to the world. The world does not need us. We need to demonstrate a need for us. And if you sit on the sidelines, you're going to feel pretty soon that you're not even in the stadium. And that's my thesis, is that you can wait for the world to say, here's your special place. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. It doesn't happen. There's many people who, want some sort of fairness or equity to come out of there, but it doesn't. You have to make it for yourself.
Well, I think that's something that we've all, we all are, in the classical academic definition about that life. We can constantly put on new hats, and we constantly think about cool things that we can do that will be in the zeitgeist and will give us not only happiness but also wealth. And I think that if I, not to retouch the argument that I think we've just reemerged from, but I think that's kind of where you're coming from, Brian, is that there is, through the dynamic element of human creativity and human ingenuity, that there will always be a way to solve these problems.
Yeah. Well, and yes, that's 100% what I was saying, is that I don't see the demand for humans to be doing and working on interesting things going away anytime soon, whether they're employed or not employed or whatever. Again, as we all become abundantly wealthy in all the material things, we will turn our attentions to doing activities, and you could call that employment or work or whatever, that make us feel fulfilled. And there will never be a shortage of that, and there will never be a direction for people to put their efforts. Or that there will never be a lack of direction to put their efforts.
Well, solve that one in the bank.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, do we have any picks for after things?
You know what? To your point, I mentioned it before, but John Acuff's book, A Do-Over, is fantastic because it talks about the idea that every few years you're going to have to do a do-over. And what I love about it is that he doesn't couch it as, you're going to get fired and have to find a new job. It could be you're doing very, very well, but suddenly realize you're spiritually unfulfilled with what you're doing, or you sense that your career is about to be, replaced with a robot. Then, just decide now that you're going to start working towards your next do-over. And he talks about how to make the most of what you currently have going for you and how to rebuild yourself for the next phase of your life, whatever it is.
Sounds like a good pick.
So my pick for this is going to be, and I forget the author's name, but Black Swan, which if you have not read,
Nicholas Tabb, I think.
Yeah. So the idea of the Black Swan is that the events that happen that kind of the great gift to humanity is our awesome problem or pattern recognizing and problem solving brains, and that very often this betrays us when we see the black swan, the thing that can't exist, and it is the root of conspiracy theories. It is at the root of well-intentioned negative policies. It's an exceptional look at this phenomenon, and I think a lot of times when we we sometimes find ourselves running down the rabbit hole because we are so logical and so brilliant and so ingenious that by the time that we see the forest for the trees, we're like, oh, wait, this was just a crazy thing that happened. And it doesn't necessarily bring an ominous portent or anything else. It is just, some crazy shiz. So check it out. It's super great.
I'm gonna throw a sort of a counter thought out there too. I think Black Swan is a very interesting, very important book. But when James Strawicki, I think it wrote "The Wisdom of the Crowds," great book. But a book that you become very clear to you very quickly how few people actually read through a book, and they'll hear the title in this, and then they'll sort of draw sort of inferences from there. And I've had conversations be like, oh yeah, Wisdom of the Crowds, like, yeah, we do things now where we in our company we take votes and stuff like this, or it's like, no, it's not. It's the anonymity of the vote, or the ability to make without being influenced by the mob is what that book's about. It's the opposite message. And the Black Swan, part of my issue with that sort of is that I know some very, very successful people, and some of them, they got lucky once and they were able to ride on that luck. Others screwed up a lot, made a bunch of mistakes, but they kept on stepping up to bat. And there is some comfort in being told that no, this, really successful people are just lucky people with a neat narrative. But there is something to the fact that some of your most successful people were going to hit it eventually because they kept going up to bat. They kept going at it, and they just increased their odds of success at that. And, and I think that's an absolutely important thing to keep in mind, is that it's Bill Gates, if he didn't end up being the richest man in the world, he would have been one of the richest men in the world, and if things played out differently. And I think that's he might have had to settle for mere Larry Ellison wealth, who's a guy that did pretty well by that. And I think that it's just be bold, take risks, and you're going to more likely to succeed than somebody who doesn't.
Yeah. And it's been forever since I've read that book, but definitely there is kind of some undercurrent of like, well, yeah, this happened because of all these situations. And it's like, yeah, I mean, everything affects everything. But, ultimately, we are the masters of our own fate. There is no fate but what you make. Socrates said that.
So great. Gentlemen, it's been after.
Did you not have a pick, Andrew?
No, I did not.
Okay. Just double checking.
Doubling down on Brian's pick.
Stop here?
Sure.
Okay.
Also, I was lying. It wasn't Socrates. It was Sarah Connor.
Yeah, no. It wasn't. That's what she went. Sacco.
It was just, a lot of people get that mixed up. I don't want any kind of like false information getting out there. People are like, oh shit, remember that movie where Socrates has a son that, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to go have fun in Portland.
Do we have any kind of title?
The first one was called...
by the way, Justin, Screen Door Restaurant. You ever get a chance, check it out.
Screen Door, huh? Yeah. Well, yeah, since our plans tonight canceled, and also starting to feel like maybe I'm going to push jury to tomorrow. That might make the most sense to get a little more time here, and then I can just do it when Ashley leaves tomorrow. So I think that might be what I do. So heads up, I've made the audible. I'm calling it right now. No jury tonight. Yes, jury tomorrow.
Do you know what time tomorrow, Justin?
What's on the schedule?
There's Cord Killers, and then Jury More is usually scheduled for Monday. Cord Killers ends around 8:30 Central. So that's 9:30. 6:30 Pacific.
Okay, so I think we're going to record Jury More locally here. So we're not going to necessarily live stream it. Okay. I'll do Jury at between the 7 to 8 o'clock. I'll start at the 7 to 8 o'clock hour Pacific.
Okay. Great.
So it should be after. And sorry, guys, but, I'm taking a little Sunday Memorial Day hiatus. and doing it tomorrow.
All right, there you go. I'm uploading the file.
So what'd you get at the screen door that's really good, Andrew?
Well, I don't know if your bride-to-be will find anything there. It is amazing Southern type cuisine. So I had the smoked beef brisket, which was incredible.
I don't know, man. Portland should rename itself Vegetarians Go Nuts for This Spot on Yelp. Like, it should just be the Yelp tag Vegetarians Go Nuts to This Spot, because there is so many places that even in Oakland or San Francisco that I would expect to not have any vegan or vegetarian options that have at least one or two pretty crazy things. So I would not be shocked, but I mean, for Southern food, that's pretty hard sometimes.
Well, they do. Yeah, I'm trying to find. They do vegetarian plates there. So look at,
don't say. Tell you what, we went to a place last night called Portobello out here that was awesome. Dan, our friend, the Dark Wizard, Dan Dirks, we went out with him last night, and he flipped his lid for it. He thought it was great.
I've heard of it. I've never been. So if you look up Screen Door Restaurant, you'll see their menu, and they do have a tumbler with like vegetarian stuff. But like if you're a carnivore, yeah, this place is the bomb.
Did we have a title for After Things?
The future doesn't need you, but Brian does.
Might be a little long.
I'd like it to just be a transcript of the entire argument. Like, I think that's what the title should be. It's just one, like, couple 1,000-word transcript.
Man, that was a weird one, because I still honestly don't know where we disagree, but it just sounded like you were talking about the next 10 years.
Me either. I don't really know where you guys were disconnected. I mean, like, it seemed like you guys were like on different sides of the timeline, or
yeah,
like.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm talking about 500 years from now, and Andrew's talking about like no, because 5 years from now, and I was like, what?
But I think.
Well, I think going into a show where we're telling people how they can kind of look forward to prepare for the future, I kind of think within their lifetimes, you know.
I think Brian, you just hit it.
Not talking about their lifetimes.
At some point, there was not I'm talking about 5,000 years from now, like just in words kind of qualifier, and then we got into this no, robots be like bleep blop bloop, and you're like no, cows be like moo, and you know. All right, guys.
All right.
Bye, Justin.
Awesome.
Love you.
AI.
Right on. Do you need this stuff, Bryce?
No.
Okay. All right.
It's uploaded, right?
70% uploaded in 38 seconds.
Okay.
1 minute.